This is the Troll Patrol. Live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. It's a freaking Tuesday. That was Monday there for a second. Nope, that was yesterday. Sorry about that. Been a long week already. And we did live music Monday last night. For a dude that does a show that is dependent on the night of the week, it's wild that I don't know what day it is. Oregon Gal, M. Lord, Clinically, Sparkles, Torchy, good evening. I know why all of you are here. Holiday. It is debate night in the USA. Ted Cruz, the Republican incumbent, debating Colin Allred in a race that shouldn't be as tight as what it is. Allred stands a really good chance of defeating Ted Cruz in Red, Texas. Sparkles, we've missed you. Are you making roast and taters? I need to take some rips. I'm not high enough for this shit. We got some crazy news to go over before we get to the debate at the top of the hour. Terry, good evening. Minty Treasure, good evening. I'm high, but I haven't been taking bong rips yet. You know, I've been saving bong rips for the stream. A lot of shit going on in New Jersey. There's a huge crash that shut down the interstate. There's a gigantic fire that's engulfing multiple houses. Poor New Jersey. Also, speaking of New Jersey, we're going to watch it on tape delay. It's happening at the same time as the Ted Cruz, Colin Allred debate. That is 7 o'clock Eastern Central Time for Ted Cruz and Colin Allred, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Meanwhile, the New Jersey Senate debate taking place at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We will watch that right after the Ted Cruz debate. And at some point in time during this evening, I got all kinds of news to go over with you guys. Like this one. A detective tipped off a child porn suspect before they raided his house. As if you need any more reason to hate the cops. A sheriff called for backup after Burger King got his order wrong. The accused killer went off a McDonald's worker because of his order and ended up arrested. A former basketball star was shot by the cops after attacking them with a knife. Mark Robinson, the man running for governor in North Carolina, is suing CNN. Meanwhile, Roy Cooper is calling on him to step down from his position as lieutenant governor. We're going to go over the Boeing strike. And a thief stole Halloween decorations twice in one day. All that and a lot freaking more tonight on the Troll Patrol Live. Good evening. This is the meme I sent to Clinically yesterday. Florida, after 3 hurricanes in 1 year, the expectation. Reality, I didn't hear no bell. I feel like that's the vibe I've been getting from Clinically. Like what? I hear there's 2 more forming in the Gulf. Bring it on. Can't find my screens. We ain't going nowhere. Motherfuckers out there trying to fight the hurricane with guns. That's the American way. So 50 minutes away from the Ted Cruz debate against Colin Allred. Ted Cruz barely won in 2018 and is less popular now. Speaking of people who aren't very popular, Donald Trump currently holding a rally in Georgia. Here's Margery Taylor Greene.
But let's go go a step further. Lahaina, East Palestine, Western North Carolina. I'm telling you, there is anger in this country that is unspeakable for how the Biden-Harris administration has thrown away these Americans as if their lives do not matter, as if their tax dollars never mattered, and treated them so that they're only worth 750 measly bucks.
Wow!
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't aware, the 750 is just the money that they will give you immediately.
Dollars over and over again for Ukraine.
I've seen most people say it's less than 48 hours you can get it.
Let me tell you, I see a sign.
I've seen people say it's approved in like a couple of hours.
How about that?
That is not all that you can get. It is what is available to you immediately.
See that sign? You see her right there? She was denied by the Biden-Harris administration $750 sorry dollars. Yeah. So let me tell you what is happening.
If you're in the area, apply for it.
Let me tell you what is happening across this country. People are taking that anger.
And more than likely, they weren't denied. There was just an issue with their application. They need to follow up with FEMA.
Stupid government that treats Americans like Americans.
Ma'am, you are part of the government.
They are marching into the elections.
If there is a problem with the way the federal government is functioning, do you know who the constituents of your district are supposed to call to get that fixed? You, bitch. You.
And I'm going to tell you something. I'm doing everything I can with every cell in my body. But I am counting on all of you.
Sassy, good evening. This is the Trump rally in Atlanta.
As I am.
Margery Taylor Greene warming up for Trump. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden actually speaking. Oh, must have just wrapped up. Was speaking in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, AJ, we brought our viewers the news just on Friday that Boeing intends to lay off around 17,000.
Was speaking in Pennsylvania at some point in time.
Those experts told us
able to enact tax credits and look.
Tim Walz in Pennsylvania.
Making sure that we were doing down payment assistance to folks because we all know if you want to get into farming, access to capital is the biggest thing. Vice President Harris knows that. She knows that our rural neighbors that look, when things are hard and difficult, that's when we do it the best. And we owe them our full support to make sure that they can find an opportunity right now in their.
Oh, I thought it was available to everybody clinically. I didn't know.
But you got to get.
It was just for homeowners.
It's nonsense. It is nonsense. We can continue to make sure we invest in rural communities. Invest.
I thought it was available to everybody.
Efforts. So
my bad. I'm sorry.
I also want you to know, because you've seen this, doing this work, many of you here know this, been a lot of talk about outsiders coming into rural communities.
I think it is a positive sign to see Trump campaigning in Georgia. Because he didn't win it in 2020. Obviously Biden won it, but it is a red state. Should be a red state by all metrics. He won it handily in 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lieutenant Governor of Georgia.
So the fact that he is campaigning there, Arizona, Nevada, and not in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which he's been to Pennsylvania several times, is a positive sign.
What are you doing tonight, Cobb County?
That's true, Joey. It's not exactly a campaign in the traditional sense. I think it was Majority Report I heard earlier talking about, like, they have 11 staffers. They have 11 full-time staffers. The Harris campaign has hundreds. It's not a real campaign. It is a grift.
3 minutes, and I said, well, that's good, because I think everybody took a little longer than that. So, but let's give it up to some of my favorite Congress people here in this.
Apparently that law change got shot down. We haven't had a chance to get into it because we've been doing debates and shit. And we've got a lot of news to do that I want to get into before we get to the debate at 8 o'clock between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred, if you're joining us for that. Also, to anybody that's a mod on YouTube, just be on the lookout. When there are big debates like this, we tend to get, some chuds. So be on the lookout over on YouTube for me.
Oh, we can do that. Absolutely.
This a couple hours ago in New Jersey. This was a live stream that just ended in like the last 20 minutes.
How you doing?
This about an hour and a half ago.
Maurice,
a large fire in New Jersey. God, Joey, that's my worry.
Thank you. Standing by for a report here, Max.
There are going to be states where we do not know the winner for a month.
You need to. I'll put the clock on up here. Where's my clock?
This is in Newark. Tearing through several homes as smoke billowed into the skyline. It's in Newark, New Jersey. Alien, good evening. So they just ended their live shot. Been in the last hour, several homes. I think completely destroyed. Crews working to extinguish the flames. Lord, that's one that's like a kind of a newer phenomenon. In 2000, we didn't know who the president was until the end of December. Mitochondria Libertad. 2004.
Hello.
I think it was a couple of days because I think Kerry
sounds good.
Looked like he might have thrown up a challenge against Ohio, but then conceded.
Because I might try to zoom in there.
2008, we knew like
90 out.
I think not long after the polls closed, if I remember correctly.
It melted.
It was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and people were like, "Celebrate good Obama, come on!"
If you can hold this, I appreciate it.
If I remember correctly, 2012 was also rather quick.
Okay.
And I'm hoping this is a 2012 kind of election, that the polls are showing it much closer than what it's actually going to be. Surely she's not going to lose to him. Surely. In 2016, we knew about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll never fucking forget that. I worked at a TV station that night. Well, I don't think we know the cause of it, Mitochondria. This is as close to a live shot as you can get. This is about 30 minutes ago, probably.
But again,
multiple homes
on the south end of Newark
catching fire. We can't possibly have a second Trump term.
Have been.
And if we have a second Trump term, they're not going to relinquish power this time. For real. That's the honest to God's truth. I said it in 2016 that he wouldn't want to give up power. I think they're skewing the polls. I mean, it depends on who you're getting your poll from, right? I think the media has a financial incentive to make sure it seems close, so that you're glued to the TV, so that you pick up their newspaper every day leading up to the election. So I totally think, and I think that was the deal in 2012. I think Republicans are represented in the polls. So I think the election should, by the numbers, it should be a cakewalk for Harris. She should win all of the blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which that alone will give her the presidency. I think she also wins Nevada. I think she wins Georgia. I think she wins North Carolina. I think she probably wins Arizona. Just that's and I think it's going to be a hell of a lot closer in Texas than what anybody is expecting. I think Texas is going to be within 3 points, and they will be in striking distance for the next election. And since we're talking about it, well, we'll do this real fast since we're doing New Jersey.
6 vehicles, including a transit bus and several tractor trailers, were involved in a crash on the New Jersey Turnpike today. It happened in the northbound lanes just past Interchange 7 in Bordentown Township. A flatbed truck and a transit van were also involved, along with the bus and 2 tractor trailers. State police say there were some non-life-threatening injuries reported here, but exact numbers not immediately clear. Video from Chopper 6 shows some passengers from the bus being loaded onto a Ewing Township EMS bus. The cause of that crash still under investigation.
So, today was the first day. Hey, Jimmy Carter made it. Jimmy Carter fucking made it. Today was the first day of early voting in Georgia. Jimmy Carter got his wish, made it to 100, got to vote for Kamala Harris. Wow. Soup, good evening. So I give Soup a shout out for me, one of my favorite streamers.
Robbie, I think if anybody from the Harris campaign is watching, they're happy with that 2025 answer. Obviously, that part of the message got out to somebody, right? But look, you and I have talked about this stage of the campaign as being less about persuasion than it is about turnout. So I wonder, can we extrapolate anything really from these very early voting numbers? What do they tell you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is one part of our politics that has just changed so much in the last 10 years and even in the last 4 years, because so many people voted early and by mail in 2020 that hadn't done.
I can tell you, read the book Shattered. It was supposed to be, I think it was also supposed to be called Shattered because it's supposed to be called like Shattered the Glass Ceiling or whatever the fuck. But it's shattered how the 2016 Hillary Clinton came, because like she had them on the plane with her and shit. Writing this book that was supposed to be about her shattering the glass ceiling. Oh my god, the hubris on Clinton's part. Like I can't say that like half of me wasn't even rooting for a Trump win just because she fucking acted like that. Just ooh. If you read the book, it's very insightful. She was apparently, her strong point was she was good in a room with 20 or 30 people, and that she could schmoz with people and shake hands, and that she was the most affable person at the party. But that she was horrible in front of crowds. And that, like, she was secretive about shit that she had no reason to be secretive about, and it made her look shady as fuck. Like, she was her own worst enemy in so many ways. But that book is insightful, and if you read it, Robbie Mook is a dumb fuck. Just throwing it out there. Read the book. Robbie Mook is a dumb fuck.
Done so before, and we're headed into an unknown space.
If you text me, I'll see it.
We had COVID, and so people were voting early. This year, we don't know. Are some people going to wait and go back to voting in person as they did before? So I think it's very
Dane, good evening.
These numbers and draw too many conclusions, and then
we're about 30 minutes away from the Texas Senate debate,
and then who's left for Election Day? You know, I remember in 2016 going into Election Day in Florida.
Fuck Robbie Mook.
Beating Barack Obama's early vote numbers by a big margin. And that made us feel very optimistic. But what happened on Election Day was so many Trump supporters turned out. So I think for Democrats, at least, we have to be very wary about celebrating too much. Good, strong turnout in Democratic areas is certainly a very good sign. And it's what we need to be doing. But we can't, rest on those laurels because, Republican voters do tend to turn out later. And Trump's been very mixed. He sometimes tells people to vote early. He sometimes tells them not to. So obviously the ultimate count will matter once the polls close on.
So the record voting in Georgia, which is a good sign, record early voting. If it breaks 2020, which was a record, that is a good sign for Democrats. He said vote on January 5th. Was that today or yesterday? We watched the speech last night. They cut it off. Apparently, he stood there and, like, danced to the music for 36 minutes. We thought there was something up with it when we went back to him. I thought he was going to take more questions, and, like, just music started playing. Apparently, he was having some sort of episode or some shit last night. So record early voting in Georgia, but here's a catch we can throw in there. Reddit believes that he shat himself. Reddit believes that everybody shat themselves, though. Will third parties be an election spoiler for Harris?
Joining me now, Tom Rogers, executive chairman of Orbit Gaming and Entertainment and editor.
I don't think so.
This week, Tom wrote that article about Jill.
I don't think anybody that's going to vote for Cornel West would vote for Harris. I think the premise is flawed.
Party voter. And will this DNC ad that we just played get those people something to consider, or does a third party voter just want to make a statement?
Well, that third-party voter in 2016 that voted for Jill Stein.
Simba, no, you were 30 minutes away from the debate. DJ Dub.
Sanders voter, and was heavily.
For some reason, this keeps turning the closed captioning on. If you want closed captioning, don't think I'm trying to be non-accessible. If you want closed captioning, my closed captioning does it for you. Does everything, the clip and my voice. Just turn that on YouTube or the Twitch.
Heavily targeted. Many suggest Russian money was fueling her campaign on social media. She didn't run in 2020. In 2024, a lot of the campaign seems to be aimed at the anti-Israel vote. It is certainly a vote that's intended to characterize Kamala Harris as not progressive enough.
And I'm divided on that, because you should put pressure on politicians to be better on the issue. However, I think she's a grifter that's taking advantage of an issue where people are rightfully galvanized and using it for personal gain. And that's why I fucking hate Jill Stein. I think Cornel West is much more pure in his motives. Maybe a little ignorant in his approach.
Certainly it's a protest vote, but it clearly comes out of...
I think you can pressure, but it's hard, DJ Dub.
That ad is totally correct. It is...
I say this as someone who was a
drag on
anti-Iraq war protester.
So in this new NBC News poll, VP Harris and Trump, they're both tied. They're at 48%. But then with...
She said like 500 or something, didn't she, Joey?
Trump-Vance ticket gets the edge. And about 4% of voters go for third-party candidates. Stein gets 1%. How significant could that 1% be in November?
Well, of course, that's a national poll, and this really comes down to the swing states.
Yep.
And when you're talking about 1 or 2% of the
swing county is really
a third-party candidate, and the margin of errors in these state polls, it's really hard to assess where that third-party vote is. What we do know is
fucking Chase Oliver,
Stein, but Cornel West is on the Wisconsin and Michigan ballot.
I just don't think anybody who would vote for Stein or would vote for West or would vote for Oliver would ever vote for Harris or Trump. I don't think third parties are a spoiler. They're a protest vote, and the question is does that protest work? I think there's much more effective ways, and I think third party runs can get overwhelmed by grifters. And I encourage you to be adversarial to the Democratic Party. We absolutely could use more options, though. we have to take over one of the parties and make it happen ourselves. I don't know what else to say. I think I know why that keeps pulling up the closed captioning on me. I think I've turned off cookies. That's what I did. I guess since we're doing politics. New crime for the other side of the debate. Remember, the debate is in less than 30 minutes. Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, who apparently is a black Nazi. Socialist Aunt, good evening. The black Nazi is apparently filing a lawsuit against CNN.
Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, also the Republican candidate for governor, officially filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against CNN and a man who says he knew him years ago.
Yeah, this comes weeks after CNN published a story accusing the lieutenant governor of making offensive remarks on a pornography website, again, years ago. He announced that lawsuit today outside of his office in Raleigh. CBS 17 investigative reporter Mary Smith was there and joins us now live with details.
Yeah, Robinson and his attorney again denying those allegations published by CNN about a month ago.
I think he's hoping they settle
the network for $50 million.
Said at the very beginning, what this amounts to is, to quote Clarence Thomas, this is a high-tech lynching on a candidate who has been targeted from day one by folks who disagree with me.
This is a common right-wing tactic. Always be on the lookout for it. The kid from Covington High School did it. Kyle Rittenhouse was able to do it. Sue for $50 million. And then you go in, oh, we'll settle for $100,000. That's less than what CNN would have to pay in lawyers' fees to fight it if it went to trial, in which CNN would win. That's how they pull this shit off.
Politically, and want to see me destroyed.
Lieutenant Governor and Republican candidate for governor Mark Robinson, alongside his attorney, announces a
Liddy, good evening.
Nearly a month after a CNN article went live online. It claimed Robinson made several offensive comments on a pornographic site years ago. He and his campaign have denied the allegations, calling them outrageous lies.
Today in Wake County Superior Court, we filed a defamation lawsuit against the cable news network and Lewis Money. That lawsuit lays out the effort to, as the Lieutenant Governor said, use a high-tech lynching in order to interfere with North Carolina.
It can't be defamation if it's true.
Election. Binal says they're continuing their investigation. The lawsuit also names Louis Love Money, a former adult video shop employee, as a defense.
Louis Love Money. Fucking love it.
Louis Love Money, a former adult video shop employee, as a defendant. Money's band Trailer Park Orchestra released a song in August titled "The Lieutenant Governor Owes Me Money." The video's caption says Robinson owes Louis money for an adult video. The lawsuit says the entire premise of the video is a deliberate lie. When asked about the lawsuit, Money told CBS 17, quote, "Hopefully this means another 10,000 views for Trailer Park Orchestra."
I'm gonna give him one.
Asked attorney
We're watching it.
Stein, Robinson's Democratic opponent for governor, about CNN's allegations Friday.
Anyway, the lieutenant governor owes him money. Bill, good evening. Oh, this is amazing. Which one is Lewis Love Money? All right, chat. What do you think about the music? It looked like it was probably an Obama mask. Dude's got some awesome chops. Oh, the Trump mask. Wait a minute, bootlegging is illegal, so you're kind of admitting to a crime. The fact that it's an Obama mask, I think. The tissues are a nice touch. Mike Hunt! It was directed by Mike Hunt! Of course, this lawsuit against CNN coming as Roy Cooper is calling on Mark Robinson to step down.
We've had news today of your second in command filing a lawsuit for defamation for that story from CNN. Would you call on him to step down, as he is someone who could become acting governor whenever you're out of the state?
So I would argue with your characterization of what his position is, but I would say that I have said for years that he should step down from his position because of extreme positions that he has taken and his attacks on people. I don't think he's qualified.
Governor, thanks for taking my question. Again, I'm Baron James with CBS 17 News. Getting back to the disinformation and the misinformation that's out there, that in some cases leading to violent threats, what's being done to protect all of the personnel on the ground as well as neighbors? And also, what do you say to people like Lieutenant Governor Robbins who are basically criticizing you for your efforts, or lack thereof in his opinion?
This has been an unprecedented response to the worst storm in North Carolina history. And there are a lot of heroes on the ground and a lot of resources that have.
Mark Robinson isn't one of them.
Western North Carolina. There is significant progress being made. But we want to make sure that we take all threats seriously. We want to make sure that the disinformation that the Lieutenant Governor is perpetuating and continuing to share on social media, that we are making sure that we protect people on the ground and trying to get the true information to people. He needs to stop it, and there are other people who needs to stop this disinformation, which is ending up hurting people who've lost everything. What we've done is we've got a coordination of law enforcement through the Department of Public Safety to work with our officials who are on the ground, including FEMA workers, to assist them, to protect them when necessary, and there's a lot of coordination going on to make sure that everybody who's working on this storm is safe and secure, because it's critical that the people of Western North Carolina get this help.
I cannot stress to you how bad the situation is in North Carolina right now. Since the governor brought it up, worry grows as multiple agencies are struggling to tally the unaccounted individuals. Still, 2 weeks after the storm.
Still remain unaccounted for 17 days after the storm is difficult at best. News 13 investigative reporter Jennifer Emmert, News 13.
Shout out to Flash, who made his way up through the area with chainsaws, offering help. Tried to stay away from the militia. I didn't get to see. He sent me an update a little bit ago. I hadn't had a chance to read it yet. Also, I feel bad that I couldn't give him more of a, because he's over in North Carolina, and that's not my area. I don't know any people over there, so I would have. Sorry, I wasn't able to give Flash more of a heads up on where to go to or what kind of organizations to coordinate with. But yeah, they got the militia out hunting people in Western North Carolina. We're about 15 minutes away from the Texas Senate debate, if that's why you were tuning in. JustinFREAKIN, we find out what that news be doing Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're on early to get ready for the... we only have one arrest so far, Avalon. But I don't know. There are multiple threats. There have been numerous threats. There have been one arrest so far that we know of. Professor Q, good evening. So this one's wild. There is a mystery drone that flew over a U.S. base.
New details are now emerging.
China?
Mysterious drone activity over U.S. military airspace. Air Force officials confirmed several unmanned drones flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia last December. It's been brought up at a number of congressional hearings and even reached President Biden. The Pentagon is still not saying what officials think these things really are. Correspondent Joe Khalil is live for us at the Capitol. So, Joe, what are law telling you?
Well, this is what we know. We are learning more now about this fleet of objects that flew over.
Weekdays, good evening.
So to be very clear, we still don't know exactly what they were. And if the Pentagon knows what they are, they certainly have not released that information publicly. But we do have some more information now, and a lot of this is being reported out. There was a Wall Street Journal report that says that Arrow, which is the division within the Pentagon that investigates UAPs or UFOs or anomalous.
Hello, like dictators.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Arrow was involved directly in this investigation, right alongside the FBI to try to.
Oh, you're funny.
Things were, which means that the Pentagon at least had some consideration that this might be something we couldn't explain with the knowledge that we have. Let's take a step back here. All this happened back in December of 2023. These things, whatever they are, were flying and hovering over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. It's housing one of the DoD's largest and most important military infrastructure and some of our most advanced fighter jets there. What you're watching right now is exclusive video of these things that a person came forward to News Nation and gave us. This is a witness who lives in the area nearby, and he described seeing these drones he estimated to be about the size of cars.
I feel like if you're doing some kind of spy shit, you don't have a fucking blinking light on it.
Pentagon officials, military officials, generals that have seen these things in person now say in the Wall Street Journal report that these things were about 20 feet long, that they were about 100 miles an hour going that speed or faster at an elevation of 3,000 to 4,000 feet altitude, and again hovering at times over our very important.
Maybe it's aliens.
Now we stress again, we don't know what these lights are that you are seeing. The Pentagon has...
Speaking of aliens, we're about 10 minutes away from the Ted Cruz
that they may not be
debate, the Texas Senate debate.
Russia trying to spy is because they're right there out in the open. There seems to be no effort to be low-key or try to hide this, which is what you might expect when one...
That's what I'm saying. They got fucking lights flashing.
On another government. So take a listen to what Ryan Graves, who's a former Air Force pilot, told News Nation. He's also now an advocate for other military pilots who have seen UAPs and are now coming forward and reporting them. This is what he said about that 2023.
He is going to say aliens.
We are seeing these objects blinking with white lights, not in the strobe pattern that one would expect due to FAA regulations, but patterns that don't seem to meet anything that I'm aware of. Additionally, the objects apparently have been lit up, the large number of them, while they're operating over the base itself. So it did not appear, at least from the information I've received, that these objects were trying to conceal their location or their presence.
I've talked to a number of senators who still say they are not sure what these are. They speculate one reason or another. We reached out to the Pentagon today for extra clarification. So far, have not heard from them.
All right, Joe Khalil live for us there in Washington. Joe, thank you.
He looks like he could be like a dinosaur of some sorts. Dinosaur puppet on the dinosaur show that we watched the other night. What is wrong with me? Since we're talking about U.S. military apparatuses, let's talk about the robbery that took place on the SS United States. Russell, good evening.
First look at the suspects accused of burglarizing the SS United States ship. Police released these videos and pictures of the crime happening earlier this month. You can see some of the suspects using ropes to get inside the historic ship in South Philadelphia. Detectives say they spent 3 hours inside, stealing batteries and tools, as well as causing damage to the property. There are several clear images of the suspects police are looking for. As for the iconic ship, this weekend a deal was finalized to turn it into an artificial reef in Florida.
What name did I get right? Let me go back and fuck it up. Hold on. Did I really get it? Who did I get right? They didn't show the picture of them for very long. Look at these little hooligans. The SS United States. We're less than 10 minutes away from the Texas Senate debate. That's what we're going to be watching live. Directly after that, we're going to be watching the New Jersey Senate debate, which is going to be on tape delay because it's taking place at the same time as Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. So stick around for that. We've also got news I can get in before. It's all crime stories. We'll do the crime stories when we do other side. If we get into the New Jersey debate and you guys get bored, because the candidates are also kind of boring, like the New Mexico debate that we watched last night. If you guys get bored, I would recommend somebody redeem the police chase on the Twitch, because I have a good one that took place last night in LA. The other side of the debates, we're going to talk about the cop in Louisville who's going to be retried in the Breonna Taylor case. A basketball star attacked a cop with a knife and got shot. A high school referee was among the dozens rounded up in a sex trafficking case. A detective tipped off a child porn suspect before his police agency raided him because cops are pieces of shit that protect pedophiles. Sheriff calls for backup while in line at a Burger King over his order. Accused killer apparently got caught after he got mad over his McDonald's order. A thief stole Halloween decorations from a home twice in one day. All that and a lot freaking more. On the other side of the debates here on the Troll Patrol Live, you do get a content warning. I have a police chase, but we don't have time for it if we do the full New Jersey debate. Because Justin really has shit he's got to do. So that's why I'm saying if you get bored during the New Jersey debate, I would suggest you redeem the police chase in the Twitch points. It is a new thing I just added that you can redeem. M. Lord, I was getting ready to take an ad anyway because I'm going to go take a tinkle. I'm going to refill my drink. When we come back, we're going to get ready for the Texas Senate debate between the Republican incumbent Ted Cruz and the Democratic challenger Colin Allred. He is a congressman, very popular. The polls show them neck and neck in a state that is going blue. Curiouser, good evening. You're here for the debate. Everybody is interested in the Ted Cruz debate. Harry Johnson, I don't think I have any missed messages on Grindr. I think you're lying to me. Nope, no missed messages on Grindr. And I'm more of a Twinkie kind of guy, like, right? If I'm going to fuck a guy, I'm very particular about the guys I fuck. I want them to be Twinkie.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
So when we come back from the other side of the break, we're going to be watching the Ted Cruz, Colin Allred, Texas Senate debate. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
All we're establishing is this guy's wicked, sick aesthetic.
Not high enough for this shit.
I guess I gotta thank Matt Walsh for introducing me to JustinFREAKIN.
Hey there, y'all. We're about to get stupid, locked into what that news be doing. Fu Manchu and a slick bandana, colder than ice, smoother than Santana. Audio, video, chat and calls. Right-wing nut jobs haunt the halls. What you wanna watch? Hey, what you think? And there's only one choice. It's JustinFREAKIN.
The guy's, he's a formidable voice in the call.
Light one up and tip one back. It's a right to be high. Let's grab a snack. It's fucking news, quit panic, attack, and play your cards right and get a titty slap. Jump in Discords, have some fun. The man will talk to everyone. Get high and try to debate. When shit pops off, chat thinks it's great. What do you think you're doing? Join the Troll Patrol. Wherever discourse is brewing, he gives it that southern drawl.
So let's go ahead and bring in Justin. Hey, Justin, how's it going, brother?
First of all, I want to say you're poser South. I'm in Alabama. I'm the real South.
Okay, all right. So why don't you tell us what it takes to be a man?
Well, I don't know. I'm in Alabama and I'll fuck a man in a dress. Why won't you fuck a man in a dress? Are you that insecure that you won't fuck a man in a dress?
That's fantastic. So you're okay with that, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Good.
Right-wingers are morons.
Light one hit and hit one back. One more click before we hit the set. Set an alert when that shit goes live. Social fucking support and hit subscribe. Light one up and take a hit. He does no harm, but it takes no shit. He's the last one standing when the ship is sinking. Let's take another rip for JustinFREAKIN.
Light one up, tip one back. I'm JustinFREAKIN. Not high enough for this shit. Damn right, content warning, because you're getting ready to see Ted Cruz. Let's do a little studio tour real fast.
Keen viewers of our newscast might have noticed some subtle changes over the last few days. Most of our newscasts have originated from the corners of our newsroom here with journalists working in the background. I want to take you downstairs to our studio and show you exactly.
It might have went under.
We have turned our
I made that years ago.
Debate stage for the biggest race on your ballot come November the 5th. This is the race for U.S. Senate, the one with Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. Both of the candidates agreed to.
I really enjoyed the Marilyn Manson concert. It was better than I thought it would be.
This hasn't been seen publicly yet, so I want to show you here. Both of the candidates will be at these lecterns on Tuesday night for the debate. The moderators will be right here. I'll be sitting in.
They went all out for this. Damn.
Jeffers from the Dallas Morning News will be over here. We'll have several clocks in the studio around for the candidates to watch to keep them on track so we can get to as many topics as possible here. We're calling it the Texas debate. No audience.
Avatar, good evening.
We hope you can watch it, though. You can watch it on WFAA Tuesday night at.
That is right now. We're going to it. Hold on, let me go to different browsers. Give me a hard time. Make it full screen.
Agreed to meet in Dallas tonight to discuss their philosophies and explain how they are different if one of them is elected, when one of them rather, is elected to represent us in the U.S. Senate for the next 6 years.
First, the rules for this debate.
I encourage everyone,
read to the following.
Get your marijuana accoutrements ready.
To answer a question.
Light one up, tip one back.
90 seconds.
Because nobody's high enough for this shit.
We'll go back to the first candidate for a 60-second rebuttal. An additional follow-up of 60 seconds will be at the discretion of the moderators.
We have several countdown clocks in the studio here with us that the candidates can see tonight to help keep them on track time-wise. Finally, both candidates will get 1 minute each to introduce themselves here in just a moment. At the end of the debate, they will get another 60 seconds for a closing statement. Now let's welcome the candidates for U.S. Senate in Texas tonight, Democrat Colin Allred and Republican Ted Cruz. Gentlemen, thank you each for being here tonight. Mr. Allred, you won the coin toss for the opening introduction to go first. You chose to go first. You have 60 seconds, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you all for moderating, and Senator Cruz, thank you for joining. I'm Colin Allred. I'm a fourth-generation Texan. I'm a husband and a father. I was raised here in Dallas by a single mom who's a public school teacher, and I've been shaped by every part of this state. My grandfather was a customs officer in Brownsville. That's where my mom and Nat were born and raised, where I spent a lot of my childhood. I was captain of the Baylor football team in Waco, trained for the NFL draft in Houston, and I've served my hometown in Dallas in Congress for the last 6 years. In that time, I've been the most bipartisan Texan in Congress. I'm the exact opposite of Senator Cruz, who's the most extreme senator in the United States Senate, maybe the most extreme in the last 30 years. But that's not enough. He's also only focused on himself.
I don't think that's true.
Cancun, when millions of Texans need you and hundreds are dying. The truth is, we don't have to be embarrassed by our senator. We can get a new one. That's what this election is all about. That's what I'm asking Texans to give me a chance to do.
Senator, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you, Gromer. Thank you, Jason. Thank you to everyone at home listening. You know, Texas is an incredible place. I'm the son of an immigrant who came from Cuba with nothing, penniless, washed dishes making 50 cents an hour, but came to Texas to seek out the American dream. And Colin Allred is the son of a single mom who became a football star. He went on to Baylor, went on to the NFL, now he's a United States Congressman. It is incredible that both Congressman Allred and I have the great privilege of representing the people of Texas in the United States Congress. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to listen very carefully to the difference between words and actions. Colin Allred is going to try to say an awful lot of words that sound reasonable. But what he's not going to talk about is his own record or my record. And I'm over and over again going to take us back to actual records, his record and my record. We're doing an awful lot right in the state of Texas. Colin Allred wants to change that. I want to keep Texas, Texas.
Senator, that is your time. We do want to begin the debate tonight with two big issues that are personal to Texans. Senator, the first question is for you. Texas has one of the strictest abortion bans in the United States. There's no exception for rape or for incest, as you know. In 2021, you co-sponsored a bill in Congress that included those exceptions. But a year later, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, you said that you agree with the Texas law that has 0 exceptions. So tonight, the question is, where do you stand on this? And we're asking for your personal opinion as a Texan and as a father.
Well, listen, abortion is an issue that many Texans, many Americans care deeply about. And it's an issue that people of good faith can disagree. People are genuinely and deeply pro-life, people are genuinely and deeply pro-choice, and there are all sorts of positions in between. I agree with the United States Supreme Court that under our Constitution, the way we resolve questions like that, questions on which we have real and genuine disagreements, is at the ballot box, is voting. And that's why the state of the law now is that the legislature in Austin sets the laws in Texas. You wouldn't expect Texas's laws to be the same as California. You wouldn't expect Alabama to be the same as New York. I will say, though, in Texas, on the question of abortion, there are a lot of areas we disagree, but there's also a lot of consensus. In Texas, we overwhelmingly support that parents should be notified and have to consent before their child gets an abortion. In Texas, we overwhelmingly agree that late-term abortions in the 8th and 9th months, that's too extreme. And I'll tell you, in Texas, we overwhelmingly agree that taxpayer money shouldn't pay for abortions. Unfortunately, Congressman Allred's voting record rejects that Texas consensus. He has voted in favor of striking down Texas's law that gives parents the right to be notified and consent. He's voted in favor of striking down Texas's law and legalizing abortion up to and including the 8th and 9th month of pregnancy. That's extreme, and it's not where the people of Texas are.
Senator, that's your time. Congressman, 90 seconds for a response.
Well, listen, it's time to finally tell the truth here. Senator Cruz just looked into a camera and lied to Texans about my position. Let's be very clear. You should look into the camera and speak to Kate Cox, who's watching right now, and explain to her why you said that this law that you said is perfectly reasonable, why she was forced to leave her 2 children behind and flee our state to get the care that she needed. Or look into the camera and talk to Amanda Zarowski, who's watching right now, and explain to her why it's perfectly reasonable that because she had a complication in her pregnancy and was denied care so long that she may never be able to have children of her own. Or to the 26,000 Texas women who've been forced to give birth to their rapist child under this law that you called perfectly reasonable. It's not. This is not freedom. I trust Texas women to make their own healthcare decisions. You know, Allie and I have had 2 baby boys here in Dallas in the last 5 years. You're scared the entire time. You don't know what they're going to say. But I can't imagine if the doctor would come in, said there's a problem with the baby or a problem with Allie, but there's nothing I can do because Ted Cruz thinks he knows better. That's not who we are as Texans. When I'm in the United States Senate, we'll restore a woman's right to choose. We'll make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. And we'll make these stories of seeing these horrific experiences going on all over our state something of the past. That's my commitment to Texans.
Congressman, thank you. Senator, you did not...
He's like a worse Cory Booker.
To you again. Do you support or oppose exceptions for rape or for incest? Again, asking as a Texan and as a father tonight.
So I want to be very clear. If you listen to Congressman Allred's answer, at no point did he make any reference to his own record. He desperately wants to hide from the fact that as a congressman, he voted to strike down Texas's parental notification law. He voted to strike down Texas's parental consent law. He voted to legalize late-term abortions, including the 8th and 9th months. He says he wants to codify Roe versus Wade, but that's not what he voted for. And I'll tell you what, tonight I suspect he's going to run away from his record on a whole lot of issues. We have a website. It's called allredfacts.com, allredfacts.com. Every time he gives an answer, just click on allredfacts.com, and we'll show you the exact vote he cast. Now, as for what the law should be in Texas, that's a decision that will be made by the state legislature. You know, Congressman Allred is running all sorts of ads saying that I made this decision. I don't serve in the state legislature. I'm not the governor. The folks that make the laws here are the state legislature and the governor. He knows that. but he's trying to deceive the voters
I want
of
to jump
Texas.
in here because I think it's too important.
We'll give you 60 seconds.
I want to be very clear to the people of Texas. I support the protections and the restrictions under Roe. But Senator Cruz just called himself pro-life. You're not. You're not pro-life. It's not pro-life to deny women care so long that they can't have children anymore. It's not pro-life to force a victim of rape to carry their rapist's baby. It's not pro-life that our maternal mortality rate has skyrocketed up by 56%. That's not pro-life, Senator. So to every Texas woman at home and every Texas family watching this, understand that when Ted Cruz says he's pro-life, he doesn't mean yours.
Senator, I want to give you 60 seconds too. I want to ask you again, why is this an issue you want to address about saying whether you support or oppose exceptions like rape?
Jason, I'm curious. Why do you keep asking me that? But yet, hold on a second. I've asked Congressman Allred twice about his voting record and the fact that he voted to strike down Texas's parental notification law and parental consent law. You haven't asked him about that. That is his record. He doesn't deny it. He gives language that is disconnected from the actual voting record he has. And listen, my view, I believe in democracy. If Congressman Allred does not like the decisions that the state legislature has made, if he doesn't like the decisions the governor has made, then he is welcome to run for state legislature or run for governor. But in Congress, neither one of us have a vote. I have not voted to strike down Texas's law. Congressman Allred has. Congressman Allred has voted to tell you, a mother at home, you have no right to know if your daughter's getting an abortion. That's an extreme position. And I can tell you the overwhelming majority of Texans do not agree with Congressman Allred's extreme position against parental rights, against the rights of a mom and dad to be with their daughter in a horrific and challenging time.
Senator, let's move on to another topic.
Let's turn to border security. Congressman, this next question is for you. In 2018, you called Trump's proposal to expand the border wall racist. You said, my generation will be the one that tears it down. But last year, you said you supported President Biden's plan to expand the border wall. Congressman, why the change in position?
Come on, man. Listen, thank you for the question. This is personal for me. My family is from Brownsville. My grandfather was a customs officer there. He joined the Customs Department in 1939. That's where my mom and my aunt were born and raised and where I spent a lot of my childhood. And I know that our border communities are real places where folks are trying to raise their families and get ahead. But time and again, Senator Cruz treats our border communities like he's going on some kind of a safari. He comes down, he puts on his outdoor clothes, he tries to look tough, and he goes back to Washington and does nothing to help. In fact, he does worse than nothing. When the toughest border security bill in a generation came up in the United States Senate, $20 billion for border security, he said, we don't need a border bill. That's what he said. And listen, this is a pattern for him. He's never there for us when we need him. When the lights went out in the energy capital of the world, he went to Cancun. On January 6th, when a mob was storming the Capitol, he was hiding in a supply closet. And when the toughest border security bill in a generation came up in the United States Senate, he took it down. We don't have to have a senator like this. Let me be very clear. I believe in physical barriers as part of a comprehensive strategy to secure the border. We had a bill for $20 billion for 1,000 new Border Patrol agents, for more immigration judges, more asylum officers to help us deal with the backlog. I wanted to make sure we passed that. When I'm in the Senate, we will. And we'll also fix our broken legal immigration system. Senator Cruz has had forever, and he's done nothing to solve this problem. Why would we believe that he will with 6 more years?
Senator, you have 90 seconds for a response.
Well, I want to note once again in his entire answer, Congressman Allred made zero reference to anything he's actually done in office. As Gromer Jeffers rightly noted in his question, Congressman Allred has said publicly, if you believe border security matters, he thinks you're a racist. He calls the border wall, quote, that racist border wall, and he has pledged to tear down that racist border wall personally. And he said, quote, we will not have that wall in this country. And by the way, that's been his consistent voting record. He's voted against the border wall not once, not twice, but 3 times. Every single time there's a serious measure in the House to secure the border, Colin Allred votes no. Look, it's a pattern we've seen actually at the presidential level because it's what Kamala Harris does as well. And understand at home, Colin Allred is Kamala Harris. Their records are the same. I've served with both of them. They voted in favor of open borders over and over and over again, and now they are desperately trying to hide that from the voters. Now, at the end, Congressman Allred said, well, gosh, Cruz hasn't done anything on that. Well, let's talk about my record. When Donald Trump was president, I worked hand in hand with President Trump to secure the border, and we achieved incredible success. We produced the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. That's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris inherited. It's what Colin Allred inherited. And they deliberately broke it and opened the border. And Texas is paying the price.
Senator, that's your time.
Light one up, tip one back.
In your 60-second response, can you address the original question?
Yeah.
Why was Trump's border wall bad?
Listen,
Why is Biden?
Yeah, listen, what I've always said is that we have to make sure that as we're talking about border security, that we don't fall into demonizing. And you can take something out of context from 7 years ago, which is what he's trying to do. But he doesn't want to talk about what he said this year, which is that we don't need a border bill. So I have a simple question for you.
Sure.
The $20 billion for 1,000 new Border Patrol agents, for 100 new immigration judges, for 4,000 asylum personnel, to help us have technology to catch fentanyl coming across the border. Why did you not support that, Senator?
It's a great question. Can I take his time and
No,
answer?
no, you can't have my time.
But
what
he
I'm
asked me a
saying,
question,
no,
you don't want me to answer.
you can jump in after me. Yeah, that's fine.
Let him finish his
More than
time.
happy to answer
This is not the United States, so I'm not yielding.
Damn.
It's fine.
Don't-
It's
don't-
fine.
Don't ask me
engage
questions.
each other.
No, I'm
like-
going to ask you a question. You can answer when you have time.
Gentlemen,
but
we-
the point
we all-
is that
Go
we
ahead.
had a bit.
Put him in his place.
This is a pattern. He talks tough, but he never shows up. We have a phrase for this in Texas: all hat and no cattle. That's what Senator Cruz is. 6 more years of this? Come on. He's had 12 years to do it already. Give someone who actually will a chance.
Thanks, Congressman. Senator, now you take 60 seconds to respond.
Well, Congressman Allred has memorized his lines well. I will say this, though. He asked, what have you done? We produced the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years, working hand in hand with President Trump. He didn't address that. He also didn't address the fact that it didn't take a bill for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Colin Allred to break the border. It took a president refusing to enforce the law. You know, you can watch and listen to Congressman Allred talk about the border on allredfacts.com. But I can tell you what he also said just a couple of years ago. He said, you know, I don't hear much about the border here in Dallas. It's not a top-of-mind issue. And I got to say, I've represented Dallas and the whole state for 12 years. I hear about it everywhere I go. I hear about it in Dallas, the folks concerned about the Dallas woman who Venezuelan gangs broke into her house.
Because you're around rich people that watch Fox News.
Threatened to cut her fingers off and robbed her. I hear about it in Houston from the mother of Jocelyn Nungary, the 12-year-old girl who was raped and murdered by Venezuelan illegal immigrants that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris released. And when you say you don't hear about it, you're not listening to Texans.
That's your time, Senator.
Gentlemen, let's move on to a different topic here. Let's turn to the economy. One of the big pain points for Texans, as you likely know, Senator, is the high cost of insurance. In the last 5 years, premiums for home and auto insurance in Texas have risen faster here in Texas than anywhere else in the country. Some insurers have stopped writing new policies or they limit the coverage that they offer Texans. This has happened in other places like Florida, like California, where climate change is causing extreme weather events. The question, Senator, does insurance need a federal solution?
Well, no, it doesn't. Insurance is much better handled at the state level. And I'll tell you, when it comes to inflation, inflation is caused by the policies of Kamala Harris and Congressman Allred. Kamala Harris and Congressman Allred, they came in and they went on a spending binge. They spent trillions of dollars we didn't have. They borrowed trillions of dollars from China that we didn't have, and they ran the printing presses. And I and many others said, if you do this, you're going to drive up inflation. And they didn't care. And I'll tell you, Texans at home are experiencing it. If you're a senior on fixed income, you're finding it harder and harder to pay your bills. If you're a working couple, just buying your first home, you're discovering a 7% mortgage is very different than a 2.5%. If you're trying to fill your tank with gas, or you're a single mom worried about getting braces for your daughter, the inflation caused by Kamala Harris and Colin Allred's spending binge is hurting Texans across the board. And I got to tell you, inflation has in particular been exacerbated by Kamala Harris and Colin Allred's war on energy and oil and gas in Texas. Understand, over and over again, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put executive orders in place to hurt energy, and Colin Allred has voted against Texas oil and gas and energy.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Over again. He voted in favor of Joe Biden's ban on new permits to export liquid natural gas, and he voted in favor of Joe Biden's ban on new gasoline-powered engines. Starting in 8 years, 2/3 of all new cars have to be electric, and Colin Allred voted in favor. That drives inflation at home.
Senator, that's your time. A lot to respond to there, Congressman.
Sure. Well, listen, I agree that that insurance is better handled at the local level and at the state level. But let's talk about inflation, because I was raised by a single mom who's a public school teacher in a state where we don't pay our teachers enough. And so I know what it's like to go through the grocery store line and swipe your debit card and just say a little prayer and hope that this week you can afford it. That's why I've been so laser focused on lowering folks' costs, on lowering the cost of your prescription drugs, on your health care, on your child care, on your housing. You know, we thought it was a good idea to cap the cost of insulin for folks on Medicare at $35 a month. I voted for it. Senator Cruz apparently disagreed. We tried to cap it for everyone because 1 in 4 Americans are rationing their insulin. You know what rationing your insulin means? It means you're not taking the medication you need to survive. And so we said, let's make sure that this is affordable. I was willing to do it and voted for it. Senator Cruz voted against it. You know, and it's not surprising. He's also one of the biggest recipients of campaign donations from big pharma lobbyists in the entire United States Senate. It's true. But this is a pattern. You know, this is somebody who goes to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. Do you really think he cares about inflation and about working families? When his entire career, he spent his time trying to cut taxes for the rich and not looking out for working folks. When I'm in the Senate, we'll have somebody who will try to represent all 30 million of us and make sure we keep a focus on lowering your costs everywhere we can.
Congressman, thank you. Senator, you have 60 seconds.
Well, you notice once again, Congressman Allred takes no responsibility for his own voting record, takes no responsibility for the trillions in spending that have driven inflation, takes no responsibility for the war on Texas energy and LNG and oil and gas. Instead, what he says is, well, gosh, he's voted to lower the price of insulin. Well, so did I. I voted on the Senate floor to lower the price of insulin to $1 a vial. And you know what? The Democrats blocked that. I'll tell you, President Trump put in a program to put in place affordable insulin. As soon as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came into office, they pulled that out. You know what Congressman Allred also voted in favor of? He voted in favor of taking $300 billion from Medicare and using it to pay for Kamala Harris's pet project, using it to pay for health insurance for illegal aliens. That is driving up the cost. Just Medicare premiums under Congressman Allred have gone up 20%, and they are projected to triple. I will fight to lower premiums and make health care more affordable and give you, the consumer, greater choice.
All right, let's turn to a topic that's been a hot button issue in your Senate campaign. Congressman, your opponent is saying in political ads that you refuse to protect the integrity of women and girls sports. The most recent ad actually came out today. Congressman, where do you stand on transgender athletes in women's sports?
Well, let's be very clear. Let's be very clear about what's happening in this campaign. This is, you don't have to be a former NFL linebacker to recognize a Hail Mary when you see one. This is a desperate, last-second attempt by Senator Cruz to distract you because he can't defend his own record. Listen, I'm a dad, I'm a Christian. Of course I don't support these ridiculous things that he's talking about. But what he wants you thinking about is kids in bathrooms, so you're not thinking about women in hospitals. Because it's indefensible. It's indefensible that we have Texas women being turned away from hospitals, bleeding out in their cars, in waiting rooms, being found by their husbands. So all of a sudden, and this is a good one, all of a sudden, the protector of women and girls is going to be Senator Cruz, who thinks it's perfectly reasonable that if a girl is raped by a relative of hers, a victim of incest, that she should be forced to carry that child to term and give birth to it. You think that's perfectly reasonable, but now you're going to set yourself up as a protector of women and girls? It's laughable. And listen, he's trying to distract you because what can he run on? I've never seen somebody who runs for office on what he hasn't done. He's been one of the least productive senators in the entire country. You know that. I talk to Texans all the time who say, I can't think of anything Ted Cruz has done to help me in my life. When I'm your senator, I'll keep focused on the issues that matter to you, on lowering your costs, on securing the border, on restoring a woman's right to choose. That's what I'll be focused on.
Senator Cruz, you have
He looks adorable, though. What a little baby face.
Once again, in that answer, he said not a word about his own record. I have to admit, the beginning of it, it reminded me of Kamala Harris in her debates, answering everything. Look, I was born in the middle class. It's some lines that sound nice that ignore his record. Let's just talk about his voting record.
He opens his mouth.
Facts.com, you can see the actual votes. 4 times.
Allredfacts.com.
For men playing in women's sports, for boys playing in girls' sports. He is a co-sponsor, and he voted for a law called the Equality Act. The Equality Act mandated that boys be able to go in girls' bathrooms, in their locker rooms, and their changing rooms. He voted for it. That is his record. Number 2, there was a bill. It was a very simple bill. It was narrowly defined. It was protecting women and girls' sports. He voted no. The only issue on that bill was whether biological boys should compete against our daughters. That's not fair. Congressman Allred was an NFL linebacker. It is not fair for a man to compete against women. The third time, he signed on to something called the Transgender Bill of Rights. Transgender Bill of Rights explicitly, and he co-sponsored it, mandated that boys compete against girls' sports. And just 2 weeks ago, Congressman Allred joined 100 radical Democrats in demanding that our military allow drag shows on military bases, pay for soldiers to have sex changes using taxpayer money, and pay for children to be sterilized and have sex changes on military bases. Again, that's extreme. That's not Texas, but that is his voting
Senator,
record.
that's your time.
Yeah.
Congressman,
Well, thank you.
there's a lot
Damn.
to respond to there. You have 60 seconds.
I mean, it's a lot. And I stand here as a proxy for millions of Texans who are sick and tired of this act. You know, when Ted Cruz starts talking about team sports, you got to watch out, because the only position he ever played was left out. And I'm not trying to be mean, Senator, but just sit this one out, please. Listen, I don't support boys playing girls' sports. I don't.
Why'd you vote for
No,
it?
stop. Let
Why did you vote
me
for it?
speak. Let me speak. What I think is that folks should not be discriminated against. And what Senator Cruz should try to explain to you is why he thinks they should. But ultimately, what he's trying to do is a little game called distraction, to distract you from his record of doing horrific things to folks in this state, of abandoning us when we need him most, of not being there when we need him. That's what he's trying to do, and that's why he's spending so much time on this.
All right, Senator.
Gromer, I'd like 60 seconds on that.
Well, I have a question for you in those 60 seconds. Parents of
all you YouTube people, be sure to like the stream.
being of their kids.
Help me pop up in on the YouTube rankings.
That you are running are dangerous.
Give us a sub if you like
those parents.
outlandish political content.
Every child. We should protect every person. I have advocated protecting the safety of every child, of every person, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, sexual identity. Everyone deserves to be protected against violent crime, against discrimination. But Congressman Allred hasn't said that. He hasn't voted for that. He's voted repeatedly. Look, I know a lot of y'all at home, for example, saw two biological men competing in women's boxing at the Olympics. That was wildly unfair. You know,
that didn't happen.
My daughter plays volleyball. It's not fair for a biological boy or man, a teenage boy, to spike the volleyball ladder, and he has voted repeatedly in favor of that. If you want to see extreme, I encourage you to read the letter Congressman Allred signed. It is on allredfacts.com. You can read it. Don't trust my description of it. Read the words yourselves. You know what he argued for? Military bases should have drag shows and should be able to fly a transgender flag above it. Look, call me old-fashioned. I think the only flag that should fly above our military base should be the American flag.
That's your time, Senator. Congressman, 60 seconds to respond. And if you can, clearly outline where you stand on transgender in women's sports.
Well, listen, as I said, I don't support boys playing girls' sports, but let's be clear about the Equality Act, which was a bipartisan vote in the Congress. It was endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. For folks at home who don't know what that is, that's basically the biggest speaking organ for the business community, by the National Association of Manufacturers. This is not a radical bill. What it's saying is that folks shouldn't be discriminated against. But what Ted Cruz wants to do apparently is. But he also, again, just wants to distract you. That's what he's going to do. He's been doing it for 12 years. Folks are sick of it. I hear from you all the time about it. Let's turn the page and let's elect someone else.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator, let's move on to January 6th. And question for you. Your own words and statements have changed since January 6, 2021. At one point, you called the insurrection a violent terrorist act, saying anyone who commits an actual act of violence should be prosecuted. President Trump has said he would consider pardoning the rioters. Would you support that? You have 90 seconds.
So, Gromer, thank you for that question. Listen, my view is clear. I think anyone who commits an act of violence should be prosecuted and should go to jail. If you assault a police officer, you should go to jail for a very long time. And by the way, that's true whether I happen to agree with your politics or disagree with your politics. I've spent 12 years fighting to defend the men and women of law enforcement. That's why I've been endorsed by the leaders of organizations, over 44,000 law enforcement officers. That's why I've been endorsed by Kim Ogg, the Democrat district attorney in Harris County. She is the twice elected Democrat, the chief law enforcement officer in Houston. She's endorsed me in this race. Why? Because she wants a senator who will stand with law enforcement, who will lock up criminals and fight to secure the border. And unfortunately, Congressman Allred's record on crime has been terrible. Congressman Allred has voted not once but twice in favor of defunding the police. Let me tell you what a disaster defunding the police had been. The defund the police movement started in 2019. From 2019 to 2023, let me tell you what happened to the murder rate. In Houston, it went up 29%. Right here in Dallas, it went up 17%. In San Antonio, it went up 57%. And my view, you know, Congressman Allred is happy to talk about those who committed acts of violence on January 6th, but you don't hear him talking about the Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots that burned cities across this country. If you commit an act of violence, you should go to jail, and there should be no political favoritism in that regard.
Congressman, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Oh, that was really something. I have to say, you can't be for the mob on January 6th and for the officers. You can't, and it's not funny. Because you're a threat to democracy. Sure. I was on the House floor when we went through the votes. I remember when you objected to the results in Arizona. Y'all at home might remember where you were on January 6th, what you were doing.
Damn, he's good.
I know where I was, and I know where he was. I remember when they told us to reach under our seats for these gas masks. I didn't know we had, because they had deployed tear gas in the rotunda. The officers locked all the doors. We barred the doors the president walks through to deliver the State of the Union with furniture that we usually use to hold paper. And I texted my wife, Allie, who was 7 months pregnant with our son, Cameron, and at home with our son, Jordan, who wasn't yet 2. Whatever happens, I love you. And I took off my suit jacket, and I was prepared to defend the House floor from the mob. At the same time, after he'd gone around the country lying about the election, after he'd been the architect of the attempt to overthrow that election, when that mob came, Senator Cruz was hiding in a supply closet. And that's okay. I don't want him to get hurt by the mob. I really don't. This election is his accountability. You cannot just be patriotic when your side wins. If for the first time in 250 years, this project of ours, this shared American project, that we did not have a peaceful transfer of power, the folks responsible have to be held accountable. That's why Liz Cheney has endorsed me, has got involved in this campaign, and is saying to Texans everywhere, do not put Ted Cruz back in a position of authority, because he's done it once, he'll do it again.
Senator, you have 60 seconds for a rebuttal, but answer the question, would you support pardoning those convicted in the Capitol riot?
So look, I think the Biden-Harris administration has persecuted some engaged in peaceful speech, and if you are being persecuted for peaceful speech, absolutely you should be pardoned. If you engaged in violence, absolutely not, you should not be pardoned. But let me say something interesting. You know, the far left, they're so angry right now. There's so much hatred. You know, Congressman Allred just snarled at me, you're a threat to democracy. Now, let me be clear. I don't know Congressman Allred. I have no animus for him personally. But I do know his voting record. His voting record is radical and extreme. And you want to talk about threats to democracy? Let's take a vote that just happened a few weeks ago on the floor of the House, the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act provided that in order to register to vote, you got to prove you're an American citizen. Congressman Allred voted no. 11.5 million illegal immigrants have come into this country under Kamala Harris and Colin Allred's open border policies, and Congressman Allred votes no to protecting our elections and ensuring that people don't vote illegally. That is a threat to democracy.
Senator, thank you. Let's move on to another topic, gentlemen. Let's shift to foreign policy here. Congressman, you said you think there is no more practical military goal for Israel and that it can achieve in Gaza. As a U.S. Senator, though, how would you hold Hamas accountable for the worst terrorist attack in Israeli history back on October 7th of 2023? And what military approach would you like to see Israel take at this point in its war?
Yeah. Well, let's begin at the beginning. October 7th was a horrific terrorist attack by a terrorist organization in Hamas, the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. They bear the responsibility for the war of choice by them. And Israel has a right to defend itself, and I have always stood up for their right to defend themselves. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I've been on it for the last 6 years, and I was in Israel not long before the attack happened. I visited a kibbutz along the Gaza border called Kfar Asa. While I was there, we shared a meal, and we were also FaceTiming with a Palestinian man in Gaza City who was a father of 4, talking about strengthening ties between Palestinians and Israelis. Kfar Asa on October 7th was the site of what an Israeli general called a massacre. And I don't know what's happened to that father of 4. I can tell you this, folks on both sides of that fence deserve to have a future, one that's free of this cycle of violence. It's time for us to reach a negotiated settlement to bring the hostages home, to also bring the remains, unfortunately, of the ones who have died in captivity. Hamas must be held accountable, and they will. According to the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, They are no longer in a position to be able to pursue an October 7th style attack. But let's also be very clear. There was a vote in the United States Congress to provide aid to Israel, to provide aid to Ukraine, to Taiwan, to help with the humanitarian situation in Gaza. I voted for it. Senator Cornyn voted for it. Ted Cruz voted against it. You can't say that you are for supporting Israel and their right to defend themselves when you vote against that critical funding.
Congressman, thank you. Senator, same question for you. What military approach would you like to see Israel take at this point? Multiple fronts are opened up right now.
Well, thank you, Jason. I will say this issue is one of the clearest differences between Congressman Allred's record and my record. When I was elected 12 years ago, I resolved then to be the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that, to stand up and fight to support Israel. I am proud to stand with Israel. Our position should be that America stands unshakably with Israel. When President Trump was president, I urged him to move our embassy to Jerusalem. He did, and I was there the day we opened the embassy in Jerusalem. I've never seen such celebration. When President Trump was president, I urged him to pull out of the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. He did, and it was the single most important national security decision of his entire presidency. Congressman Allred,
I want to think about Trump pulling out.
Lined up against Israel. At the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, he urged them to send money to Gaza, even though it would go to Hamas. He has supported Kamala Harris and Joe Biden flowing over $100 billion to Iran. 90% of the funding for Hamas and Hezbollah comes from Iran. I'll tell you, Congressman Allred invited a radical imam here in Dallas who calls Zionists monsters and has compared them to Nazis. Congressman Allred calls them the very best of North Texas. I don't support those who engage in anti-Semitic actions, and I will tell you the funders of the anti-Semitic protest on college campuses are among Congressman Allred's biggest supporters. We need clarity. We need to draw a line, and as for me and my home, we will stand with Israel.
Senator, thank you for that. Congressman, you have 60 seconds.
We have to talk about this because there was a vote. It's not about talking. It's about action. We had a vote in the United States Congress to provide military funding and aid to Israel, to Ukraine, to Taiwan, to address the humanitarian issues in Gaza and around the world. Part of that aid package was $5 billion in the interceptors that were used in the Iron Dome to prevent the Iranian rockets that just rained down on Israel a couple of weeks ago. That happened in spite of Senator Cruz. It was a very illuminating vote because the extremists were the ones who voted against it. The far left voted against it. The far right voted against it. I think there was only 18 senators who voted against it. And Ted Cruz was one of them. So you can't tell me that you support Israel when the rubber meets the road and you're not there. But let's also be very clear. We have to find a negotiated diplomatic settlement to many of these issues. And that is what I'm going to try and contribute to when I'm in the United States Senate.
So I need 60 seconds to respond to that charge there. Now,
did you vote for it?
Well, let's actually get into it.
You voted against it.
So Congressman Allred is right that there was a bill that was on the floor of the Senate, and I opposed that bill. Why? Because I said at the time that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to flow money to Gaza and give it to Hamas, but they're going to freeze weapons to Israel. That's exactly what they did. And after that, the House of Representatives took up a bill to provide emergency weapons to Israel, and Congressman Allred voted no. Understand, every single time Congressman Allred, right now in this debate, he is echoing the calls of the enemies of Israel saying, ceasefire now. He claims there is nothing else to be done militarily. I'll tell you, when Israel detonated the pagers against Hezbollah, it was one of the most targeted and effective military actions we have ever seen. Congressman Allred is proud to be supported by J Street, the radical left organization that undermines Israel at every level. And I got to say, listen, that's dangerous. Right now, Kamala Harris and Colin Allred both want the votes of the anti-Semites on college campuses. I don't want their vote. And if they threaten Jewish students, they should be arrested. They should be prosecuted. They should be expelled.
Senator,
and if they're from another country, they should be deported.
Senator, that's your time. But let's stay right here. As you mentioned, you have been a strong advocate of Israel's right to defend itself. But the World Court has found it plausible that Israel has committed acts that violate the Genocide Convention. Do you think Israel bears any responsibility for the civilian deaths and humanitarian crisis in Gaza? You have 90 seconds.
I think there is no country on earth that fights a more humane, a more targeted, a more just war than the people of Israel. The World Court And the International Court of Justice is filled with anti-Semites. They repeatedly attack Israel over and over and over again. And I'll tell you, I've got real experience there. When I was the Solicitor General of Texas, I represented the state of Texas before the U.S. Supreme Court, fighting against the World Court. And we won a 6-3 victory because the World Court was trying to attack Texas just like it's trying to attack Israel. Listen, Israel goes in, number one, it deliberately targets military targets. I mentioned the pagers before. I've never seen a military action that was actually the leadership of Hezbollah who decided who would get these pagers. And you had to be just enough of a psychopathic terrorist that Hezbollah wanted you on that pager. That's who detonated. It was precisely targeted. You know, Israel, when they go in, when they see, for example, military operations in a building, they send text.
They bomb a hospital.
They drop leaflets. They drop what's called a knock bomb on the top that just makes a noise to tell civilians clear out. There's no other nation that goes to the
wow.
does to avoid civilian casualties. You know who's responsible for the civilian deaths? Hamas, because they use human shields. And let's talk about records. I introduced legislation to sanction Hamas for using human shields. That legislation passed into law. It is one of the 101 different pieces of legislation I've enacted, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refuse to enforce that law. They will not sanction Hamas, and Congressman Allred will not stand up to that.
That's your time. Congressman, does Israel bear any responsibility for civilian deaths and a humanitarian crisis in Gaza?
Well, listen, I will agree with Senator Cruz that Hamas is a terrorist organization that hides amongst the civilian populace. This is part of their battle plan. They anticipate and want civilian casualties. They put their tunnels beneath playgrounds, beneath elementary schools. They do this knowing that they make it more difficult to then target them without it causing civilian casualties. No one in Texas or across the country should shed any tears for Hamas. What we can do at the same time is have within our hearts the capacity to say that we want to prevent unneeded civilian suffering. And that is something that I've always believed, that we can separate. And we've done this our entire history as a country. This is what makes us great. It's what also makes democracies like Israel great, is that we can separate the terrorist leaders of a group from the people who are being subjected to that. And so, to me, what we have had to keep our focus on is trying to provide as much aid as possible to innocent civilians in Gaza, to make sure that children are not being unnecessary.
They ain't got fucking food in like a month.
This has to be the Israeli responsibility. And that's something that I'll continue to work on in the Senate when I have a chance.
All right, thanks, Congressman.
Do I get 60 seconds?
Yes, that's, we're going to move on actually to.
Senator, we have.
I thought it was 90-96.
Yeah, this is, I apologize. Here we got off track.
Yeah.
You have 60 seconds to respond, sir.
You know, again, Congressman Allred did not address his own record, and that's a pattern at every level. You can go to allredfacts.com and you can see his votes. You can see his vote against providing weapons to Israel. You can see the letter Congressman Allred signed. He joined with over 100 left-wing Democrats at the beginning of the Biden.
Not high enough for this shit.
Please send money to Gaza, even though it'll go to Hamas and be used for terrorism. And by the way, I led 19 senators in urging the administration, do not send money to Gaza because it will be used by Hamas for terrorism. We now know how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris resolved that. The administration concluded it was, quote, highly likely that the money would be used by Hamas for terrorism. But you know what they did? They sent it anyway. They waived U.S. anti-terrorism laws. When it comes to records, you know, you didn't hear anything Congress Allred has done. What I have done is, as I said, authored and passed 101 different pieces of legislation, including legislation targeting Hamas. They should be sanctioned, and I stand with Israel that they should destroy Hamas.
Senator, thank you. Sorry about that just a moment ago as well. Let's move on to another issue here. It's a pocketbook question, something you mentioned earlier tonight, Congressman. You said while you were at the grocery store as a child, you'd swipe the debit card and you'd say a little prayer, you and your mom. Since the pandemic, though, food prices have soared 25%, as everyone in the studio knows here tonight. Senator Elizabeth Warren and other Democrats urged President Biden to use his executive authority to lower food prices. Since you did not sign that letter, what is your idea to bring down food prices?
Not really a hippie, but
listen, as I said,
appreciate your feedback.
For me. I know exactly what it's like when the cost of anything goes up. I mean, I know what it's like to be dead broke, and to hope that something comes along so that you can get through that week. And that's why I've been so laser focused on controlling Texans' costs and lowering them everywhere I possibly can. One of those is the child tax credit. For 6 months, it was in place, and it helped us lift millions of Texas kids out of food insecurity. You know, the North Texas Food Bank told me that they could track when the child tax credit hit folks' bank accounts because need for their services would go down. We wanted to extend that. We thought it was the right thing to do, to lift kids out of food insecurity. But Senator Cruz opposed it. When I'm in the Senate, I'll bring back the child tax credit. I'll also make sure that we cut taxes for the middle class. This has been a tough time for the middle class. We have to make sure that we're alleviating their tax burden. And I'm going to invest in a new generation of housing to make sure that as we can increase our housing supply and lower the overall cost of housing. It's something that has to be a national priority. And when I'm in the Senate, it will be.
Congressman, thank you. Senator, how do you lower food prices?
Well, let me briefly address the child tax credit, because that was an integral part of the 2017 Trump tax cuts that I spent hundreds of hours working on, fighting for, and supporting, and that Congressman Allred opposed. The Trump tax cuts worked incredibly well. We saw the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, the lowest African-American unemployment ever recorded, the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. We saw real results. Now, the Democrats this past year, what they wanted to do with the child tax credit is they wanted to relax the work requirement for parents. They wanted parents not to have to go work. That's a mistake. We need parents to get back to work. Now, your question was about inflation and food. Listen, Kamala Harris and Colin Allred have undermined our farmers and ranchers every day. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Texas Farm Bureau to fight for the farmers and ranchers in Texas. They put bureaucratic regulations that make it harder and harder for farmers and ranchers to survive. But nothing hurts more than the cost of energy. Listen, whether it is the natural gas that goes into fertilizers that they use to farm crops, or whether it is the diesel in their tractor or the diesel in the trucks bringing food to the stores, the energy skyrocketing prices are the result of Congressman Allred and Kamala Harris's war on Texas oil and gas. Congressman Allred voted for billions of new taxes on natural gas. He also voted in favor of Joe Biden's ban on liquid natural gas new permits, and he's voted in favor of Joe Biden's ban on new gas engines. Starting in 8 years, two-thirds of all cars have to be electric.
Senator, that is your time. I want to redirect the question, though, to families like yours years ago. How do you lower food prices here? Your name wasn't on that letter for the president to use executive authority. How do you do it?
There are some times where there is price gouging going on, and we have to have the agencies that are responsible for that looking into it. But it's also true that some of these supply chain issues and consumption issues from the pandemic are still ironing themselves out. But let me be very clear about something. I opposed Joe Biden's pause on LNG exports. In fact, you don't have to just believe me. You can go read the op-ed that I wrote in the Houston Chronicle opposing it, saying it was the wrong thing for Texas energy, that it was also wrong for our national security, because while we're trying to wean our European allies off Russian gas, you know what was replacing that? Texas LNG. And so I want everyone out there to understand that I will be a defender of the Texas energy economy, that I'll grow it in an all-of-the-above way, and that what Senator Cruz is telling you is simply not true.
Senator, I need 60 seconds to that, because he directly responded there, and what he said was false.
Senator, we don't have time. We want to get a few more topics in here in our final minutes here, please,
But give me 30 seconds then. Give me 30 seconds, because he illustrated what I said at the beginning.
Can you use your time on the next question?
He wants his 30 seconds.
Senator, we need to move on. You can address it in the next question here, sir.
Let's change topics, Senator. Both of you say you believe in protecting access to fertility treatments like in vitro fertilization. But the process effectively ended for a while in the state of Alabama after a state Supreme Court decision there. If both Democrats and Republicans agree on protecting IVF, why hasn't it happened?
So it's a great question. It's very important. I'm going to get to it in a second, because I do need to respond to what Congressman Allred just said before. Which is, I said at the outset, there's a difference between words and actions. If you noticed on LNG, what Congressman Allred said is, well, I wrote an op-ed about it, and it's true. He does claim he supports LNG. But when it came time to vote, there was a vote in the House of Representatives, do you support Joe Biden's ban on new permits on LNG? And Congressman Allred voted with Joe Biden. He voted against Texas jobs. By the way, in South Texas, there's an $18 billion new LNG export terminal struck down by left-wing judges, the kind of judges Congressman Allred supports. That cost 6,000 high-paying jobs in South Texas. This is an agenda where his record, yes, his words sound good, but his voting record, remember his first 4 years in the House, he voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. He didn't deviate on a single vote, which meant he voted against oil and gas and Texas jobs repeatedly. All right, IVF, incredibly important topic. I am the author of legislation that would protect IVF as a matter of federal statutory right. I joined with Alabama Senator Katie Britt to put a clear protection of IVF. I strongly support IVF. You ask why it hasn't passed? Because Democrats, very cynically, they stood up and objected. Why? Because they want to campaign on the issue, and if my legislation had passed, it would be unequivocal in federal law that IVF is protected for every American, and it is Democrats who blocked it.
Senator, that is your time. Congressman, IVF, 90 seconds.
Well, listen, if Senator Cruz is telling you something that doesn't match with what you're seeing from others, then it's probably because he's lying. I was named by an outside group the most bipartisan Texan in Congress. This is something I've worked at, not
Ted Cruz lie, nah.
This election year. I've done it over the course of my 6 years in Congress. Let's talk about IVF. Because IVF didn't need protecting until he got his way of going after it. No one was thinking that we needed to protect IVF until he was singularly responsible for pursuing, by putting in place judges at the district court level, the circuit court level, and Supreme Court level, folks who would put at risk this miracle technology. And you know what? It's not just that. When he ran for president in 2016, he supported the personhood amendment. You know what that means? That would make something like IVF illegal, but also ban certain forms of birth control. You did. You did. When you ran for president in 2016, you can look it up, folks. You don't have to believe me. Again, you've been seeing him lie to you for 12 years. Let's have a senator who doesn't. And I will always protect IVF, but it was at risk because of him.
Senator, 60 seconds for a rebuttal.
Well, let me say on IVF, you can watch the debate on the Senate floor where I tried to pass strong, clear federal legislation protecting IVF, and the Democrats stood up and objected it cynically. But I got to say, there's something Congressman Allred says that he says all the time. He says this independent group rated him the most bipartisan member of the Texas delegation. And I got to say, I found that quite odd, so I went and looked at this group. Because how can someone who votes 100% with Nancy Pelosi, which is what he did his first 4 years, how can he be bipartisan? How can Colin Allred? Colin Allred voted 100% with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris their first 2 years in office. How could he be called the most bipartisan member? And then I discovered this group. Its board consists of a bunch of Democrat donors. They say on their website, we don't look at votes. We don't examine every vote. So he can vote. He votes exactly like Nancy Pelosi. But yet this group gives him camouflage.
Okay, let me
100. True or false? Your first 4 years in the House, you voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. True or false?
Senator, that's your time. Congressman,
have you seen them titties?
You can, please, Congressman, you can respond in the next question here. We're almost out of time. You can respond in the next question.
Let's get to it quickly.
I want to ask you this question. Kamala Harris, Congressman, she wants to give $25,000 in down payment assistance to people wanting to buy their first homes. She's also proposing a $40 billion innovation fund to build more affordable houses in Texas. The question tonight, do you support those?
Okay, so let me just address the bipartisanship thing, because over 70% of the bills that I've co-sponsored over 6 years have been bipartisan. And you know what? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is another group you might have heard of, Senator Cruz. They gave me an award, the Jefferson Hamilton Award, for my bipartisanship. So that is not in question. What is in question is your recent transition to trying to be someone who wants to actually get things done instead of being a hyper-partisan. Now let me go back to housing here, because to me, the focus has to be on increasing our housing supply. We have to build more housing. We have to build more affordable housing. We have to make sure that it's connected to our communities. This has to be a focus for us and a national priority. I was in the Obama administration at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This has been a need for us for a long time, but we haven't addressed it fully. When I'm in the Senate, we'll make sure that we move a bill to try and build a new generation of affordable housing across Texas and across the country. That will help lower costs for folks. It'll also increase the supply. We have to do it. Here in DFW, we've got 300 people a day moving here. And you know what? We also have to invest in our infrastructure. And I want to talk really quickly about that, because there's a bill to bring $35 billion to Texas over 5 years, the bipartisan infrastructure law. Mitch McConnell voted for it. I voted for it. Senator Cruz voted against it. When you're growing as fast as we are, you have to have the infrastructure to keep up with it. But he apparently didn't think that was a good idea.
Congressman, thank you. Senator, you have 90 seconds, sir.
Well, when it comes to housing, nothing is driving up housing costs as powerfully as the 11.5 million illegal immigrants that Congressman Allred and Kamala Harris have let in with their open borders, and they want to keep letting in. But let me say, when you talk about bipartisanship and record, let's compare our actual records. Congressman Allred mentioned the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has endorsed me in this race because I've been the leading champion of jobs here in Texas for 12 years. In 6 years in the House, Congressman Allred has authored and passed 3 pieces of legislation. 3. In my time in the Senate, I have authored and passed 101 different pieces of legislation, 2 different bills to create new interstates. I-14 from West Texas to East Texas, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. That was Raphael Warnock and me, a liberal Democrat, Cruz Warnock. We passed it. That's going to produce thousands of new jobs. I-27, a new interstate that's going to run from Laredo through West Texas, through the Panhandle, all the way up to Montana. That was Cruz Lujan. Ben Ray Lujan, a Democrat from New Mexico, that passed. That's going to create thousands of jobs. I authored the legislation to expedite the permitting on 4 brand new bridges in South Texas that is going to create thousands and thousands of jobs for South Texas farmers and ranchers. The Texas Association of Business refers to my legislation expediting those bridges as the single most important legislation for Texas-Mexico trade since the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Congressman Allred has no record to point to.
Senator, thank you. To be clear, Congressman, do you support the initiatives that Kamala Harris is proposing, the $25,000, the $40 billion innovation fund?
Yeah, well, to be clear, I think we have to start with the housing supply before we get into anything else.
And how do you pay for that?
Yeah. Well, listen, this is something that is going to have to be a priority for us because it is an important question. You know, how do you pay for something? Because there are certain investments that bring back more than what you put into it. When you have a housing shortage, you have to build more housing because that's driving up every other cost, and it's really hurting our young people. When you have an investment in infrastructure, like $35 billion that Texas is getting, that's happening because I voted for it in spite of Senator Cruz voting against it, that is something that's a smart investment that's going to help us grow our economy. When it comes to the Chips and Science Act, which was a good idea that I was a part of passing in the House, that John Cornyn was helping to pass in the United States Senate to bring back high-tech manufacturing to Texas and America. We were voting for it. Senator Cruz is voting against it. Our economic output has been in spite of him. And when I'm in the Senate, I'll make sure I'm part of these hard work that we have to do to roll up our sleeves and get things done, like addressing housing.
Congressman, thank you. It feels like the time has flown here in the studio tonight. I hope our viewers have gotten something out of this, but it's not.
It has, unlike that
voters for your closing
New Mexico debate last night.
You won the coin toss tonight. You chose to go.
Stick around. We're doing the New Jersey Senate debate directly after this.
Moderating, you did an excellent job. I want to thank Senator Cruz for a spirited debate. Listen, we're all Texans. My idol John Lewis used to say that we might have come here on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. We're all Americans and we're all Texans. We need a leader who will bring us together around our shared values. That's what I've tried to do in my 6 years in Congress. That's the exact opposite of what Senator Cruz has done. Whatever he says tonight, you've seen it for 12 years. He's been one of the most divisive senators in the entire country. If you don't like how things are going in Washington right now, well, you know what? He is singularly responsible for it. He has introduced this new kind of angertainment where you just get people upset and then you podcast about it and you write a book about it and you make some money on it. But you're not actually there when people need you. Like when the lights went out, when 30 million Texans were relying on a senator to spring into action. He went to Cancun. That's who he is. If you give me the chance to be your United States Senator, I'll never abandon you. And I'm asking for your vote and for your support in this election.
Congressman, thank you. Senator Cruz, you get the final word tonight. You have 60 seconds.
The stakes in this election are the highest of my lifetime. Congressman Allred and Kamala Harris are both running on the same radical agenda. Congressman Allred has pledged to be the 50th vote for Chuck Schumer to end the filibuster, to end the requirement of 60 votes to pass major legislation. That means if Congressman Allred is elected, we will see the Democrats, number one, strike down every voter integrity law in the country. Number two, add D.C. and Puerto Rico as states to give them 4 new Democrat senators. Number 3, grant immediate voting rights to every illegal alien in America. That would turn Texas blue, and every statewide elected official in Texas would be defeated in the next election. And number 4, pack the U.S. Supreme Court. That would jeopardize our fundamental rights. I've spent 12 years fighting every single day to defend jobs and freedom and security. Congressman Allred wants to destroy what we've got in Texas because he shares Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris's value.
Senator,
I will fight to keep Texas, Texas.
Senator, that is your time tonight. Gentlemen, we do want to thank you for a spirited and animated but respectful debate tonight. We appreciate that here. Before we go, we do want to remind our viewers, it's hard to believe here too, but Election Day is coming up here shortly. Early voting.
Welcome in to everyone on YouTube that joined us for the Ted Cruz, Colin Allred debate. Directly after this, we're going to watch the New Jersey Senate debate. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. I'm JustinFREAKIN. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, especially if you like politics and bullshit. If you're the kind of person that wants to watch a congressional hearing while someone makes dick and fart jokes, this is the channel for you. So do subscribe. Please give me a like if you hung out and watched the debate with us. We appreciate you being here. I would personally give each and every one of you a titty slap if I could.
A titty slap!
Come on now. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to do the New Jersey Senate debate between Andy Kim and Curtis Bashaw. He had a medical emergency during the last debate. They had to pause for a little bit. He pulled a Mitch McConnell. Curtis Bashaw is the Republican. Andy Kim, the Democrat. I believe this is an open seat. We will do the New Jersey Senate debate when we come back from the other side of the break here on the Troll Patrol live. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
All we're establishing is this guy's wicked, sick aesthetic.
Not high enough for this shit. I guess I gotta thank Matt Walsh for introducing me to JustinFREAKIN.
Hey there, y'all. We're about to get stupid, locked into what that news be doing. Fu Manchu and a slick bandana, colder than ice, smoother than Santana. Audio, video, chat and calls. Right-wing nut jobs haunt the halls. What you wanna watch? Hey, what you think? And there's only one choice. It's JustinFREAKIN.
The guy's, he's a formidable voice in the call.
Light one up and tip one back. It's a right to be high. Let's grab a snack. It's fucking news, quit panic, attack, and play your cards right and get a titty slap. Jump in Discords, have some fun. The man will talk to everyone. Get high and try to debate. When shit pops off, chat thinks it's great. What do you think you're doing? Join the Troll Patrol. Wherever discourse is brewing, he gives it that southern drawl.
So let's go ahead and bring in Justin. Hey, Justin, how's it going, brother?
First of all, I want to say you're poser South. I'm in Alabama. I'm the real South.
Okay, all right. So why don't you tell us what it takes to beat a man?
Well, I don't know. I'm in Alabama and I'll fuck a man in a dress. Why won't you fuck a man in a dress? Are you that insecure that you won't fuck a man in a dress?
That's fantastic. So you're okay with that, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Good.
Right-wingers are morons.
Light one hit and hit one back. One more click before we hit the set. Set an alert when that shit goes live. Social fucking support and hit subscribe. Light one up and take a hit. He does no harm, but it takes no shit. He's the last one standing when the ship is sinking. Let's take another rip for JustinFREAKIN.
Light one up, tip one back. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
Not high enough for this shit.
Once again, welcome in to everybody watching on YouTube. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We find out what that news be doing, the most absurd news, politics, and current events on the internet. Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're getting ready to watch the New Jersey Senate debate, which is apparently only 30 minutes long. So it took place while the Ted Cruz debate was going on. So we're going to watch it on tape delay. That's what we're going to do right now. I encourage everyone Light one up,
Good
tip one back.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Brianna Venosi.
And I'm David Cruz. Welcome to our live conversation with the candidates for U.S. Senate.
We're calling it a conversation because this is not a traditional debate. There will be no timed responses, and the goal for the evening is to talk about the issues impacting you through an exchange of ideas. Now, David and I will lead the discussion.
It's not a debate. I'm sorry.
Questions to each candidate.
We welcome our guest, Democrat Andy Kim and Republican Curtis Bashaw. Gents, welcome to you both, and thanks for doing this. We'll start off easy by having you fix the economy. So we'll start with you, Mr. Bashaw. Everyone seems to agree that affordability is what's on top of the mind for voters today. What do you think is driving this crisis, and what specifically can you do from your seat in the Senate?
Well, affordability is a huge issue. You know, I run a small business that has now grown to 1,000 employees. We know our utilities are more expensive. We know that the food that we buy in to serve in our restaurants is more expensive. And in all 21 counties of this state, I have heard that issue loud and clear from New Jerseyans. And so to me,
what's wrong with having a stamp collection?
Is to cut back on our government spending. You know, we had to deal with the COVID crisis, and then we've kept doubling down by doing more and more expensive bills that have caused inflation. And I believe the best way to cure it isn't to spend more money, isn't to try to do price caps, isn't to try to have mandates or subsidies, but is to actually unshackle our businesses, let them grow, trust our business people, grow the economy, make
500 people on the YouTube left. I should have just not done this and done the normal show, and I might have kept some people, because I think the show is that fucking good. Oops, my bad. Instead, we get these two boring fucks in New Jersey.
Make it bigger.
What do you think is driving this issue or this crisis?
Well, look, I agree that we want to make sure that we're growing our economy, but we need to make sure we're growing it for everybody. You know, right now, biggest corporations in the world are growing exponentially. But we're seeing a lot of small businesses really struggling to make ends meet. We're seeing a lot of people not invested in the stock market. Over half our country is not invested in the stock market. Other things like that. We have a huge racial wealth gap here in New Jersey, $300,000 wealth gap. You know, we see how it affects the Black community, the Latino community, Asian American communities. You know, there's a lot more that we need to be doing. Look, you know, that's why I took steps to be able to lower prescription drug costs, for instance. You know, something that was one of my biggest legislative wins. Being able to cap out-of-pocket costs for seniors when it comes to their prescription drugs at $166 a month, capping insulin costs at $35 a month. We're trying to do that for all Americans. But look, you know, other things that we did, we passed the child tax credit, something that cut child poverty in half in this country.
Seriously.
You know, these are proven tools, but the Republicans in Congress got rid of all of these different efforts that we were trying to do to help people through these difficult times. So, you know, these are some of the things we're trying to fix.
You seem to be ready to unleash business. He seems to be ready to have some regulation. What's the difference here between you two on what role government can play in stimulating the economy or making things more affordable for folks?
Look, we live in America that is a free enterprise country. We trust our citizens here and our businesses, and that's how we've created this American dream. I don't think we can spend our way to prosperity. I don't think that we can
be asleep to believe it.
And I don't think that we can regulate our way to innovation and growth. New Jersey is one of the most expensive states for taxes. It's one of the most unaffordable states. It's one of the most highly regulated states. And ironically, New Jersey is 49th in what we get back from the federal government out of all the other states. So I don't believe these old 20th century habits of price caps, of subsidies, of excess spending, those are failed policies, that socialist policies that we've tried to force the hand of the market. You know what
socialism means, sir?
We need to let our businesses thrive. So I lean against too much intervention, but I understand that we need to take care and make sure that everybody has a shot.
One of the things that we have found in our reporting over the past year particularly is that A lot of people we talk to about affordability point to affordable housing as a driver of this crisis. The estimate is that there needs to be about
someone in the chat on YouTube said that Ted Cruz
built in the
sucked and stinks.
Meeting that goal.
And I agree.
What kind of
I would like to say that I concur with that sentiment.
Well, I think barriers currently are inflation,
Stinks
are
and
making
sucks.
houses unaffordable for people, and high interest rates. So we need to make sure that we control inflation. I don't think that's by spending another $1.7 trillion as a way to solve it. If people think that we solved inflation with the Inflation Reduction Act, I don't think anybody.
I've never met him, but I assume he smells bad.
Trillions of dollars. It was, in my opinion, misnamed, and it was a policy that was party line vote.
How do you
Here he smells like sulfur.
affordable housing
I
crisis
think we need
from
to
your
do
seat?
several things. We need to get inflation in check, and we need to make sure interest rates come down. 2, we need to make sure there's permitting reform. It takes ages to get permits, particularly in New Jersey, but you can't just go out and build a house. It can take years to get permits. So that's a second thing. And thirdly, we need to make sure we have a trained workforce. And this is where I think, the trades and the trade schools and making sure that young people understand
that when you have to have a shit bag
to be made in the trades, and we need more workforce.
Well, I think this is an example where there is a difference here. For instance, for me, I look at the bipartisan infrastructure law that we did, something that's putting, billions of dollars back into New Jersey, helping us rebuild our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our public transit. That's going to lead into the ability for us to build more housing. I mean, we need a decade of building.
Inflation is called inflation is caused by the swelling from a properly placed titty slap.
Look at, for instance, Mr. Banzhar said he opposes the Inflation Reduction Act. I think that's a perfect example.
I'm sorry, I stepped on my own joke.
Investment. It's investing in private sector, in the markets. It's driving signals. It's creating an unbelievable response in surging energy innovation in America. We can do the same type of effort when it comes to building, be able to send signals to the market, incentivize the kind of building, but not just what we've seen. Like, the market is clearly not doing this on its own. We need to make sure we're building diverse types of housing, not just big, luxury housing. We need to make sure we're building lots of different housing, and government can play a role in incentivizing that.
So let's look at some numbers moving on from.
I destroyed children's lives? I don't think I did.
1%. Inflation is at 2.8. 250,000 new jobs.
Maybe.
According to the last report, the Dow's at 43,000. How is this not a good economy?
Look, we've had some leading indicators move, but I think talking to New Jersey voters in all 21 counties,
what's about their feels?
Realizes how much more expensive things are than 4 years ago. I mean, what's happened in the inflation over the last 4 years? It's not.
Are the people that's left on YouTube, are these bots?
4 years ago to what they cost today, what fuel and heating oil and all those things cost. This is a.
I don't think you're a bot, Phil.
Family. So the solution isn't.
Like, I've actually talked to you.
$1.7 trillion. I don't think you can force it by.
Phil Oliver Holes is like really fucking funny.
Here. I mean, I know I house 180 of our employees. Affordability is a very important thing, but I think these things don't get solved in the halls of Washington in think tanks.
Penis.
I think they get solved by unshackling our business people, making sure they can get permits to do the building, making sure interest rates are low, and that we're not living beyond our means as a country. And I think political outsiders and business people will make a difference in these issues. We can't have more of the same. It hasn't worked.
Oh, energy flow, hell yeah.
That you could get a blue-collar job, what they used to call blue-collar jobs, and earn a living, raise a family with it. The current minimum wage in New Jersey is $15, about half that on the national level.
Good evening, Luggy.
You're an employer, Curtis. How do you?
Damn it, I'm calling that audible now. I had like 800 people in here, and now I'm wondering how many of them are bots after the last little bit. I should have tried to keep them by doing the actual show I had planned. We could have jumped like straight to video of a former basketball star attacking a cop. Clinically, thank you for the resub. Lenny, thank you for the resub. Oh, I need my other browser back. Leslie, thank you for the resub. If you guys didn't notice, during the debates, I usually try to lay out as much as possible. The people on YouTube prefer it when I do that. I get the feedback. They really like it when I shut the fuck up. So during the debates, when we tend to have a lot of people join in, I lay out as much as possible. No, I totally got it anonymously. I saw it pop up. I just didn't say anything because YouTube people don't want me to talk during the debates. They get really upset with me. Thread, Mox, I don't think I told you guys good evening. Anonymously, welcome in. I've got some fucking wild ass novice mom. Welcome in. We're so glad to have you. Any of you YouTubers that type penis, I will totally acknowledge you by name because I like to do that. This is a very interactive chat. Feel free to type whatever the fuck you want. An ex-basketball player was shot dead after slashing a cop.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We begin today with some shocking police body cam footage of an officer responding for a welfare check. He's confronted by a woman who's having a mental episode. She's wielding a knife, and it ends with the woman being fatally shot. Now we've learned she's 6'6" and played basketball for Georgetown University. Amber Cagliano reports on a story in which we warn you the video is intense.
It begins with a knock on the door.
Hold on, let me hit the content warning. Fuckers.
An officer is doing a welfare check on the woman who lives in this apartment in Reston, Virginia.
Hi, man. I'm Officer Lou.
She slams the door shut. He knocks again. Little does he know that the woman behind the door is a former Georgetown basketball star.
Why does that matter?
She's 6'6".
Can you talk to me real quick? Can you please talk to me? We just want to check on you. Make sure you're okay, that's all.
The door flings open and Wilson slashes the officer in the face with a butcher knife.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Officer Peter Liu repeatedly tells her to back up as she charges forward.
Oh, yeah. Back up. Please back up.
When she appears to lunge, he fires 2 shots. Then,
damn girl.
She
but still, if he wasn't there.
The officer's bloodied hand as he grabs his radio.
Shots fired.
When backup arrives, police try to save her. You can see the officer on the floor, his face bloodied.
She cut me in the head. She cut you in the head? Yeah.
At a press conference, the police chief
shot him in the head.
Tried everything to defuse the situation.
Our police officer literally retreats, backs up, and runs backwards as he's pleading with this woman to
Fairfax County, Virginia.
To former LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey for her analysis. Was this an appropriate course of action?
This was an appropriate use of deadly force. When she did open the door, we see her lunge forward with a knife in her hand over her head as if she's gonna.
It felt almost like 3D.
Harm to this officer.
Not long ago, Sydney Wilson posted this photo.
Forward with a knife in her hand over her.
Was this an appropriate course of action?
This was an appropriate use of deadly force. When she did open the door, we see her lunge forward with a knife in her hand over her head as if she's gonna, do some great bodily harm to this officer.
Not long ago, Sydney Wilson posted this photo holding a certification in adult mental health first aid that she had just completed. The Georgetown University basketball team shared this tribute to Wilson, remembering her in happier times. No one could have ever predicted her life would end this way.
The fatal incident happened 1 month ago, but authorities only just now released
the woman needed help,
in accordance with
shot.
the policy.
Clinically was like almost got him. The fact that she got him in the forehead, that's wild. It's the kind of absurd news we cover here on the Troll Patrol. The story that I've covered since the beginning. The story of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, who should still be alive, was murdered by pigs. There is an officer back in court for the retrial.
Today, one of the Louisville police officers at the center of the botched raid that led to the death of Breonna Taylor is due back in court. This will be former detective Brett Hankison's second federal trial. He is accused of violating Taylor and her neighbor's civil rights during the 2020 raid. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos joins us with a closer look here. Danny, thanks for joining us. So Hankison was actually acquitted of state charges in 2022. So this will be the third attempt to convict him. How did we get to this?
Right, and none of these charges are directly related to the victim's death. In other words, he's never been charged with shooting Breonna Taylor because the evidence shows that he did not. The first state charges were related to reckless endangerment for the bullets that flew out of the apartment and into the neighbor's apartment. He was acquitted on that. Then the federal government charged him on civil rights violations, which is related to the killing, but not exactly directly charging for the killing. He was, the jury was deadlocked last time around, and the government has elected to retry him, which I would categorize for either state or federal prosecutors as a high-risk prosecution, not because of my opinion, but because we have lab-tested results. We have at least one criminal trial ended in an acquittal, different charges, and then deadlocking on the first federal trial. So I think the uphill battle here is the government. They're in a strange position, one they don't normally find themselves in.
What kind of punishment would he be facing if found guilty?
It would be potential, like the problem with the federal sentencing guidelines is that when you calculate them, they can yield a huge sentence. But in this case, it would probably be much closer to measured in years and not decades. But the federal sentencing guidelines are no joke, even for a first-time offender, as obviously Brent Hankison is.
Yeah, so the judge is not allowing prosecutors to admit evidence on Hankison's behavior in other instances, during other raids, prior acts. How could that impact the prosecution's case?
Prior bad acts is really a controversial issue right now. The prosecutors will always try to get in prior bad acts of a defendant, but the rules prevent that. The challenge really is that there are so many exceptions to that rule. So, for example, I can't just introduce evidence that Hankison did bad things in the past, but if those bad things in the past are part of a modus operandi, part of a signature, something that he always does, then it might come in under an exception to that general rule that we don't try people for things that they did in their history, but only for the crimes that they're charged with. It is a very confusing rule. Defense attorneys like me think there are a lot of problems with it, but of course I'm biased in that area. The bottom line is this: general rule, you can't bring in prior bad acts, but there are exceptions if they really are connected to the crime.
This comes as prosecutors have also filed a new indictment against two former Louisville officers accused of obtaining false warrants for Taylor's home. Tell us about that.
So from the origin, and this is one of the reasons why Hankison might have a defense, one of several different defenses he has, is that there may have been recklessness all around in obtaining the search warrant, which reportedly was obtained based on the single testimony of an unreliable informant, which, by the way, happens a lot. Many search warrants are just not executed with force and at night and with guns drawn. A lot are executed and often based on people's statements alone, people who may be criminals themselves with questionable histories. This is something that goes on a lot. It's not an exception. In many ways, it can be the rule. So that is something that really should be looked at in this case. And by the way, might be an avenue for Hankison's defense, which is, hey, I might have made some mistakes, but the real recklessness was obtaining this warrant was done by other people on my team who are not me.
Thanks for watching.
Shut up, Lester. Aw, Shelly, yes, I'm sorry. It was at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Texas time. It got a little contentious at times. We started watching whatever was the... You can go back and watch it on YouTube. You should totally subscribe. Everybody that might still be here from YouTube, you should subscribe, give the video a like. I should have pivoted and done the normal show after the Texas debate. We had hundreds of people in here. I need to hit the content warning for this one. This one has, this one's gonna get your blood boiling. A cop tipped off a child porn suspect before they raided him.
Well, Sagamore Hills man who pleaded guilty to child pornography charges doesn't get any jail time.
And what may be more surprising, the detective investigating the case tipped him off weeks before his arrest.
19 investigator Mike Mason is breaking the story for us tonight.
We discovered that 3 weeks before police executed a search warrant for this suspect's home, the lead detective warned him and his attorney about charges they planned to file against him.
I want old laptop.
Your 19 First Alert forecast.
Video shows Sagamore Hills police executing a search warrant at the home of 24-year-old Anthony Strong back in October of last year.
Anthony Strong, hands up, please. This is for any alleged child porn, any electronics, anything will be seized.
Officers didn't find any evidence. However, Strong was eventually convicted of 1 count of possessing child pornography. The case began in October of 2022 when Google sent this cyber tip to the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Google had flagged a 14-second file identified as child pornography that they say was downloaded to Strong's computer and cell phone. The case was then assigned to Sagamore Hills police detective Victoria Mayovitz. Reports show that for the next several months, investigators subpoenaed Strong's emails and phone records. A year later, on September 21st of 2023, Mayovitz contacted Strong. According to her report, she then advised him that his name came up in a case she was working on. The report states that Strong agreed to go to the police department to discuss the issue. When he didn't show up, Detective Mayovitz called his attorney. In her report, she writes, she told the attorney his client was downloading child pornography. She went on to tell him, I only have 1 file downloaded to our knowledge. If his client wanted to turn himself in, I could speak with the Summit County prosecutor and see if he could get probation or something. Otherwise, I would get a search warrant. But Strong refused to turn himself in. It would then take 3 long weeks before Mayovitz obtained a search warrant for his home. By that time, any evidence of child pornography was gone.
Would you know where Anthony's phone is?
Actually, he left it here last night.
Strong told officers he previously had a Google Pixel phone, but he somehow lost it.
All I have is the flip phone. I have nothing else to give you.
He somehow lost it.
Body cam video, you can hear Mayovitz question Strong's mother.
He doesn't have it anymore?
No. He told me he lost it.
He lost it? Do you know where he lost it?
No.
When detectives questioned Strong about his computer, he claimed he got rid of it because it was broken.
Do you know where it is?
No. What did you do? Threw it out the first time I cleaned my room out back in like March. I don't have anything to give you guys. I would.
When police finished their inspection, Mayovitz wrote, any items that could have contained illegal activity are long gone and have been disposed of.
Hello, Detective.
We managed to contact Mayovitz for comment.
It was investigated. He was convicted, of a felony, and that was it.
You gave him and his attorney notice about this before the search warrant was executed. Can you comment on that at all?
No. I cannot.
Although Mayovitz is tight-lipped about this case now, she spoke freely about it on body cam video after searching Strong's home.
I've already gave you a heads up anyways, enough time for you to get rid of everything. I'm ready.
Police Chief David Hayes declined to comment. We reached out to Strong but haven't heard back. This past May, he pleaded guilty to 1 count of possessing child pornography. He received no jail time but was sentenced to 18 months of supervised probation, plus he's now a registered Tier 2 sex offender. Mike Mason, 19 News.
Well, at least it's something, I guess. He had to be a sex offender. Totally gotta watch this. I got other stories to get to though. This one also needs a content warning. Content. Entire show needs a content warning. A high school referee was among the dozens arrested in a human trafficking bust in Ohio.
A statewide human trafficking operation puts more than 130 people behind bars. Some of the alleged offenders from Central Ohio include a high school referee and a registered sex offender. We thank you.
Well, that would make sense.
NBC4 at 5. I'm Jennifer Bullock.
I'm Jared Smalley. This operation was led by the Attorney General's Organized Crime Investigation Commission in partnership with more than 100 law enforcement agencies.
NBC4's crime and safety reporter Anna Hoffman is here to tell us the details of this operation. Anna?
Yeah, Jen, they're calling it Operation NOHHT, and it happened last week all throughout that week. Now, in today's news conference, Attorney General Dave Yost reinforcing a message he said before: don't buy sex in Ohio. Attorney General Dave Yost says a week-long human trafficking sting ends with 132 arrests across the state.
This is really among the most horrific crimes that happen in Ohio.
110 of those arrests are what he refers to as Johns, people who are facing charges of engaging in prostitution or...
Oh, now hold the fuck up. So they're people you entrapped. That's bullshit. So like the real number of people that you got off the streets, like 20. Fucking fuck.
Or solicitation. 22 people were arrested for seeking sex with a minor. Yost says
that's what we care about.
Identified 73 potential human trafficking survivors and are working to get them the recovery help they need.
People still tend to view purchasing sex as being somehow divorced from the issue of human trafficking. But the fact of the matter is there is no human trafficking unless people are buying sex.
Operation NOHHT involves investigating
legalized prostitution.
This includes
it gets rid of this problem. It shouldn't even be a problem to begin with. And it makes it much easier to protect the children.
Against Children Task Force and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office.
Numbers are staggering, which shows you there's much work to do.
Some of the arrests in Franklin County include 29-year-old Terrence Cummings, a registered sex offender who is facing new accusations that he traded drugs for sex with teens. Also, 35-year-old John Hughes, who authorities say works for the Ohio Treasurer's Office and referees high school athletics. He is charged with 2 felony counts for pandering for seeking to buy sex from a minor.
It's a day that we're very proud of, but it's also a day of concern as well.
Yost says human trafficking happens all around us, and if you have any sort of suspicion to report, he is also calling on prosecutors.
I don't want to laugh during this story.
The job they started.
This doesn't mean that everybody needs to get locked up or get locked up for a long time, but there has to be.
Is that Russell Crowe?
To stop human trafficking.
Yost says a few weeks ago they started a new human trafficking hotline in Ohio. That number is 1-844-OHHT. We will have that on our website, NBC4i.com.
Number again?
844 and new human trafficking hotline in Ohio. That number is 1-844-OHHT. We will
1-844-OHT. I fucked the song up. I'm sorry. See myself out. I was trying to sing it in the tune of Hot to Go, but it didn't. Sorry. I can't. This is the one I've been looking forward to all fucking night. This is the pinnacle. We've got a cop going off the deep end while he's in a Burger King drive-thru, and we got video of it.
That's right. I want to order her a Whopper, no mayo cut in half. Right?
Tonight, newly released body camera video stirring up controversy in an Atlanta suburb. Cobb County deputies seen here rushing to the scene of a Burger King with sirens blaring.
Move!
Not for a crime or physical altercation.
We ordered something, the food was wrong.
But to assist Cobb County Sheriff Craig Owens with his food order complaint.
Okay, sir. I don't need no damn money back no more. I just need to find out who owns this place so I can do official complaint to complain.
The incident happened a year and a half ago, according to the timestamp, but an edited video of the complaint recently emerged in a campaign ad from Owen's opponent in the sheriff's race, Republican David Cavender.
I don't think you should have your own deputies running lights and sirens down the streets of Cobb County because your order was wrong. As a senior law enforcement official in the county, I believe that should be something you should be able to use some social interaction skills with and be able to navigate that incident without the assistance of deputies.
NBC News obtained the original body camera videos from two deputies' perspectives.
You didn't tell her who I was. No, I just told him it was
the
truck.
Owen
power.
Defending his actions, writing, "At no point did I indicate my position, nor did I ask the responders to do anything that they would not, had not, or have not done for anyone else who makes a business dispute call," which he says any citizen can make. Adding that, "I regret that this call is being politicized in an attempt to win votes." Carmen Best is a former police chief in Seattle.
Any person does have the right to make the call, but he's not any person. He is the sheriff, and these people work for him who are responding. So it does make it a bit of a different circumstance.
Owens, a Democrat, unseated longtime Sheriff Neil Warren, a Republican, in 2020, becoming the county's first black sheriff, running on jail reform and his experience in the Army Reserves.
So help me God. So help me God.
Now, the groundbreaking sheriff facing a grilling just as early voting is set to.
They didn't cut it in half or some shit.
Democratic county, and most people vote for the incumbents in these down ticket races unless they have a real reason not to. But this makes the Republicans' chances a little bit smoother.
And Emily Ikeda joins us now in studio. So, Emily, is this a situation where constituents, voters are speaking out? Could there be political ramifications here for the sheriff?
Well, we are hearing some concerns raised by voters. There's a lot.
Maybe it was one of those long chicken sandwiches.
Why did it take so long for this video to surface? Was it a misuse of resources? And if we zoom out, you think about Cobb County, Georgia, this battleground state. Vice President Kamala Harris really needs to win Cobb County in order to win the state, as Democrats have done so in the past two presidential elections. So it's really key and important.
We're bringing this Burger King order back around to presidential politics. This is wild.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Everything's about the election.
Not super likely that the sheriff's race will impact the top of the ticket, but former President Trump of all places, he will be holding a rally in Cobb County tomorrow. So we'll see if he tries to use this as leverage, if he leans into this. But again, it is giving voters some kind of pause because of how viral the video has gone. I should also note that David Cavender, the political opponent, he says he has learned that the sheriff has since started to receive some threats in light of the video, and he wants to wholeheartedly condemn them. So it's starting to turn ugly.
Emily Ikeda.
Oh, fuck him. Sorry. Go from a Burger King order to a McDonald's order. An accused cop killer apparently assaulted a McDonald's worker.
Jack's I-Team tonight is digging into the accused gunman's previous criminal record, both here in Duval County and in North Carolina. I-Team reporter Tarek Miner is joining us with information about Demaria Grant's previous arrest. And Tarek, I know you also spoke to a witness of one of Grant's previous crimes. It says that she thinks he should have been in custody already.
Well, you know, Demaria Grant's arrest records, they date back to 2015. He's been charged with crimes including kidnapping, assault by strangulation, and assault on a law enforcement officer. He was also convicted of battering two local McDonald's employees during an argument over paying extra money for barbecue sauce here in Jacksonville. One of the witnesses to that crime is speaking with News4Jax.
Do you think anyone was like in fear for their lives at the McDonald's at that time?
For sure. Like, I mean, I was scared, and then like once he like showed his gun, like I was like for real scared.
Former fast food employee Margaret Gilbert is recounting her encounter with Demaria Grant in 2021 after she says Grant assaulted a store manager and another employee and brandished a gun, upset he was being charged extra for barbecue sauce. according to the arrest report, after the manager explained that she had to charge for the additional sauces and it would be 75 cents. The suspect parked his car, which was in the drive-thru, went into the restaurant and began arguing over the price of the sauces. And then he pushed her, causing her to fall to the ground. She then observed the suspect pull a black gun from his waistband area, and he kept it pointed to the ground.
And he came in and he assaulted my manager. I saw the gun, like the back end of the gun. I wasn't in front of him. I was behind him. But he definitely had anger issues. If that's my personal opinion, he definitely had anger issues.
Definitely.
Who was a convicted felon at the time, was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, aggravated assault, and battery, and giving a false name.
Should be
But
free.
according to
I agree.
prosecutors, the gun he brandished wasn't real, so they dropped that one charge, and he pleaded guilty to the assault charges. Grant spent 1 year in jail in Florida and then was extradited back to North Carolina for other criminal charges he was facing. All this before police say Grant shot and killed Jacksonville Correctional Officer Brad McNew during an argument. Gilbert says years ago, Grant seemed to have a short fuse.
And he came in and he assaulted my manager. I saw the gun, like the back end of the gun. I wasn't in front of him.
You all saw him. He had a gun.
But he definitely had anger issues. If that's my personal opinion, he definitely had anger issues.
Grant appeared before a judge today in Gaston County, North Carolina, where he's being held without bond as he awaits extradition to Florida. Kent?
Nunya, good evening. Welcome in. Glad to have you here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button over on the YouTube. Give the stream a like. I'm the stupid guy with the bandana. I'm the stupid guy with the bandana on his head, sucking on his fingers and smoking a bong. I am not Ted Cruz incognito. How dare you insult me like that? My name is JustinFREAKIN. We find out what that news be doing Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. The most absurd news, politics, and current events on the internet. I am going to take you to Cleveland, where we're going to watch the dash cam of a police chase, I believe. So here's a police chase for you. Newly released dash cam. Man was robbed before the chase. His car was apparently stolen.
Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News digital desk. We're going to be showing you some dash cam video released to us just a little bit ago here from a chase that happened on October 3rd. Now, you may remember if you were watching our air that night, we had video of a car that had crashed right near an overpass where we were able to see the investigation happening. Again, this happening October 3rd. When the initial chase took place, police were responding to calls of people pointing guns at individuals. They robbed a guy, they stole his car, they were firing bullets from an overpass, and then ultimately the chase began. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different videos here. The first one is the crash in its entirety, and then the second one is just the crash itself. Let's get to it. 5 minutes and 16 seconds in total is the first clip.
We had another dash cam footage of a chase in Ohio, but it was in Columbus. Don't know if we're gonna have audio here. It might kick in a second. There we go.
Where's that at? Right here. Where? Right there, the car!
Yeah, dum-dum.
Right here. Hey, it's this car right here! 3-4. We're behind a silver...
I almost hit that pole.
Sedan. It's going northbound. Top on 71 north off of 4. Shots fired came from that vehicle. That's affirmative. 3-4, we're behind the vehicle. I cannot get in.
This happened on October 3rd, a week and a half ago in Cleveland. they're boogieing.
Keep it broadcasting. Oh, 93. 3-4, speeds are 93.
Apparently they discharged a weapon.
Passing up West 25th.
You're just not here when we do chases that aren't LA, I swear. We've had some really fun chases in other places. Chases in other places.
37, just a quick update. Apparently there's 2 people on the bridge that were shot at. So we're going to be investigating that.
Apparently 2 people were shot at.
3-4 still bound to vehicle.
The car is
90 west now, passing up Steel Yard. Speeds 94. Traffic medium.
He said the speed is 94. I don't know if that is the suspect or what the cops are doing. The suspect is so far up there.
490 east. Speed 70. 3-4. It just crashed.
Oh.
490 on the bend.
Show me your hand! Show me your hand! Show me your hand! Hand! Hand!
490 east, around 490.
Is a shooting getting ready to take place?
Do you have the mail?
Hands up now!
God damn.
Brad, back up.
That's what I heard click, a shotgun.
On the ground now! On the ground! On the ground now! Who is it called? On the ground!
We've got 1 male out of the car trying to get on the ground. There's only 4 out there shortly.
Oh, that was something.
On the 490 east ramp from 71. You need more cars there? 3-3, we got 1 male detained. We're going to need fire out here. Maybe EMS just to get this guy checked out. Definitely in Boston, Forest Grove Point. Sam 3-4. I'm heading out there. I'm just fueling up. We probably still need
I'm not sure why the video's a big deal if they didn't shoot the guy. Cops are really bad at their jobs.
Copy, and I copy male detained.
Like insanely bad at their jobs.
34 to 37. You're on with those juveniles on the bridge. These are the juveniles. We're confirming 1 victim right now. Do you have a firearm? No firearm. Someone else saying those kids are shooting at him.
We have a different angle of the crash.
So one person was arrested in this, a 41-year-old. Aggravated robbery, felonious assault 3 times, having weapons while under disability, criminal damaging, felony fleeing and eluding, improper
Felonious assault would be like a really cool name for a band.
Violating state drug
wrestler.
laws, possessing criminal tools. All of those levied against
Maybe the lead character in a video game.
the crash portion of this, because to be honest, I've had kind of a tough time seeing exactly how it happens. It seems like they get the end.
Well, there's another way, Phil, but
guardrail. It's going to loop here. You see right there? Yeah, it seems
a
like
little darker.
Contact there, taking a lot of speed into that turn, hit the apex, then immediately cut over and nail that side of the railing. All right, we're going to have much more on this and the stories of the night.
I got a couple more stories, but they're on the light side, so I feel like we should go ahead and... I'm a man of the people. I give the people what they want, and I know what my chat wants. They want a police chase.
News, a pursuit now of an armed and dangerous suspect, and Desmond Shaw is overhead in Skycal. And Des, from what I understand, he was driving at a...
Happened last night in L.A.
Yeah, we had heard about some pretty high speeds on this one, this Infinity, this dark blue Infinity, and at first we had heard that the want was for speed and obviously failure to yield, but we have learned more. It sounds like this may be a known suspect, and they believe that they could be armed and dangerous. It's not clear what the crime was that started.
Oh, they're armed and dangerous.
Authorities to look for this person, but they say that 2 black handguns were used.
Apparently
So
at the Rancho Cucamonga exit.
Deputies that are in pursuit of a potentially very dangerous person, and so that's
They're getting up there. It looks like 85
suspect, and you have a agency that is known for being pretty aggressive, especially when we're talking about very serious wants. So we're making our way through the Rialto, actually Rancho Cucamonga area right now, westbound on 4th Street. Probably going to get into some busy commercial areas. We'll see what the authorities
they're pulling up on him.
are going to do, if they're going to try any spike strips or anything like that to stop the suspect.
We did a motorcycle chase
15 and
a couple of weeks ago.
In the Cajon Pass.
It was in L.A.
Looks like we
they got away.
Back on the freeway here, possibly back onto the 10. So at actually, excuse me, the 15 freeway we're going to be getting on here. So yeah, this is definitely a volatile pursuit right now, Pat and Mike.
There's no question about that. You know, I'm wondering at any time, because I believe this you were on a freeway earlier
That's fucked
today.
up, Ducky.
Be involved in this in any way?
Also, good evening. I don't know if I
Sheriff does not want to give it up. So
gave you a
CHP
shout
has
out.
asked if they want him to take over. San Bernardino Sheriff says no, give it to us, which is not uncommon for the Sheriff's Department. They like to keep their chases, especially when the want is more serious. Now, they did ask CHP for a canine and to set up spike strips. It doesn't sound like CHP was ever able to get in position.
It looks like they're cruising between like 80 and 100.
On the 15, which is where he came from. We know this started up in the high desert, the Victorville area, and then came down the 15, and then he went east on the 210, looped around the 210, and then came back westbound on the 10. So now he's northbound back on the 15. It'll be interesting to see if he tries to go back up to the high desert where this all started, or what his exact plan is. You see him flashing his headlights there too. I'm not sure, maybe trying to signal other drivers to get out of the way. The CHP got information from the sheriff's office out there that this only one person inside of this. And again, as Desmond mentioned, it does definitely sound like they know who this person is. The car comes back armed and dangerous. And Sheriff's Department told CHP that weapons, 2 handguns, were used in the crime. They did not elaborate on what that alleged crime is, only to say that he had apparently 2 weapons on him, 2 handguns on him, when whatever that alleged crime was committed.
Yeah, which obviously that's more of an incentive to catch this guy and get him, in handcuffs because of that reason. And certainly, hopefully, we don't know if anyone was hurt, actually, because we don't know, as you say, what the crime was, where those 2 weapons were used. He is now driving at, in the 80s on the freeway, which is not all that, well, no, he's going up to 100 now. I started to say not all that unusual if it's 80, but now he's in the triple digits, and this makes for an even more dangerous situation. Desmond, do we know, have we heard any more talk about spike strips? I mean, it's obviously more difficult when you're on a freeway like that.
Yes, we have not heard any more of that chatter. We have seen some very daring spike strip attempts at some successful ones over the years, though.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be super surprising if they were going to try that. I do have to point out, though, that we are headed northbound on the 15 back towards the Cajon Pass, which is going to be a problem for us.
Yeah, usually the cops back off.
To the merge of the 15-215, we won't be able to follow it up.
But it appears they believe that
so
the suspect is dangerous enough for them to follow in close pursuit.
Say that they have reason to believe that the suspect lives up in the high desert. So, this car was coming down from that area, from the Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley area, southbound on the 15.
Armed and dangerous.
Rancho Cucamonga, and now we're doubling back towards that area. So if this is going to continue.
So apparently they don't have a disability having to do with their arms. They got both of their arms.
And we'll just have to see, we'll keep the vehicle as long as we can, but how authorities are going to handle this if it heads back up towards the high desert.
So it sounds that you said over this, so they have their chopper up, Ontario PD, but you've got San Bernardino sheriffs on the ground following this guy.
That's right, and we did. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Deputy's helicopter was over this as well initially, but they left. Maybe they needed to go get fuel or something like that. Pretty sure that they do have night vision, so they should be able to continue up. Yeah, my pilot Dylan concurring with that. So I'm not sure if Ontario PD has that, but San Bernardino County Sheriff's Deputies do. Obviously, they have reason to have night vision goggles, lots of mountains and lots of different things that they might have to fly around at night. We unfortunately do not have that, but very expensive technology. But San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies, maybe they get their helicopter back over this and keep eyes from the air. We'll see if, again, if Ontario PD is going to be going up into the Cajon Pass as well.
Okay, Desmond, you mentioned.
We'll be able to follow this car as it is pretty committed to going into the Cajon Pass now at this point. Just a couple more exits before we start climbing the mountain, or rather the suspect and the authorities. And, if they're going to try a spike strip, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they're going to try it, maybe somewhere in the Cajon Pass. On this one, I mean, we know that they believe that the suspect lives up in the high desert.
You're unimpressed with Smokey, or you felt like he was unimpressed?
The suspect
they just came back whenever I flipped it back over.
They are still right behind.
They had some sort of technical issue.
Right now, it's going to be.
You didn't miss any of this chase. T-minus, welcome in.
To have night vision. Technology, and then San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies, perhaps they're going to come back inbound.
He was definitely very unimpressed. He wanted to lay down and
never did get the want on this one, but
I don't even know what you call what he's doing in the car.
Two handguns.
I gotta hold his hands so he don't scratch my goddamn
kneecap. Big rigs here. And we
know it's hard to see him.
About into the Cajon Pass here, northbound 15. Got to be making
Cajon Pass.
Northbound 215 here shortly.
And you know what? Since you said they know who this person is, well, they may know where he lives. So that certainly more incentive for them to continue.
Got his hazard lights on.
With this pursuit, and I'm sure
that's something.
Even have other units as they get further up into the Cajon Pass to possibly be at this person's residence where he resides.
Yeah, and it definitely sounds like they have an idea, obviously, of who this guy is. They've got, obviously, some more information than they're sharing. There's a reason they didn't want to give it to CHP. They wanted to keep it for themselves. They obviously say they know that he's armed and dangerous, that handguns were used in whatever alleged crime they say was happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if they already have deputies near his home or his residence or what have you. This has been going on long enough that they certainly should, know where that's at by now.
And you say they could possibly do spike strips because of where it is?
You silence all the bots on YouTube politically?
Yeah, not as much traffic, and I believe it gets a little bit more narrow through the Cajon Pass, not as many lanes, which is always what they have to contend with, right? When you've got the freeway and there's so much space for them to maneuver around the spike strips.
Okay, and Desmond, all right, Desmond, we're having a little problem getting Desmond's audio. So, Mike, I think we're going to go on to the weather. Back to that breaking news, a high-speed pursuit of a suspect armed and dangerous. And this is happening in the Cajon Pass.
They've tapered off now. They're not, saying Ted Cruz sucked my ass or whatever.
Our final,
which I was totally fine with.
It's not going to be able to be seen from SkyCal. Des has already kind of doubled in here on the chase as it goes up to 15.
That might have been you.
The Ontario
sounds like something you'd say.
The San Bernardino sheriff that was chasing it originally is still following it. But yeah, it's going up into the 15 of the Cajon Pass where we were before when he came down southbound through here when this whole thing started. And again, all we know is that this was what they call a failure to yield, meaning he didn't pull over when they wanted him to. But Pat, as we've been talking about, they clearly know more about this guy.
Wait a minute, was it a failure to yield, or is he armed and dangerous?
On the freeway, they probably know where he lives, since they know who he is. So there's no doubt there's probably deputies at his home or where he resides also.
Yeah, and you can see this is now we're starting to kind of lose the shot here because the mountains are getting in the way. SkyCal cannot fly through this area.
It'll be interesting to see how many we hit at one point in time. I may have broke 1,000.
Technology that we were talking about.
I don't know if the restream kept up with everybody.
So we won't be able to have eyes on it, but at least law enforcement.
I don't think it lasted very long.
San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department still following this vehicle, this person, because they know who it is.
Yeah, and they don't want to give it up. CHP has asked them a couple times if they want their help, and San Bernardino Sheriff says, if you got some spike strips, great. Otherwise, we want to keep it.
All right, well, this is going to go, they've still got a ways to go.
Yeah.
They're still on the freeway right now. But again, we do have, I think we could surmise at this point that they will
Good night, Lenny.
get this guy into custody.
We got a debate tomorrow night, but I don't remember what the fuck it is right now.
Not letting it go.
I can look if you want me to.
So much for that, Mike.
I'll
and
do
with
it.
That, we are going
Delaware. We're doing Delaware tomorrow night.
at 10.
Fucking who? Fucking what?
And back to our breaking news now.
Delaware.
Pursuit of an armed and dangerous driver.
That's right. We have an update for Mike Rogers at the desk. Mike, we understand.
What are you watching? Oh, the Delaware debate.
It was actually a pit maneuver, and it was just conducted. And unfortunately, we're losing Desmond's signal there.
How fuck we didn't get to see the pit
are in
maneuver?
this very precarious place of the 15 freeway where it is hard for us to get a signal out of there. So, but I can tell you the car slowed down just enough, and I think we've got Desmond's pictures back live now, but the car slowed down just enough for them to be able to get up there, nudge him, and spin him around. We have not seen him come out of the car at all yet. This is kind of the situation. So now in addition to this dangerous chase of this potentially armed dangerous suspect, you now have all lanes of the 15 freeway that are going to be shut down while they try to get this guy out of here and get him into custody. So still not real clear on what the exact want was and why they were chasing this guy to begin with. But we do know that the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office did not want to give it up, and they wanted to keep with it, and they did. And here we are looking at a pit maneuver now. Well, on the right side of your screen, from a distance, you see that San Bernardino Sheriff's car is able to get in there and spin him around. A really good pit maneuver. The guy does not continue, and then you see the deputies kind of swarm him and hold this right here.
Circle him. He could have got away.
138.
He could have totally got away.
Halfway through.
If it was that one dude we were watching the other day, he would have.
Down, guys.
You know, I'm very surprised that they actually did a pit maneuver, Mike, with him being armed and dangerous.
Yeah, look, I mean, San Bernardino is a real aggressive agency when it comes to pursuits, especially when it's a want like this. They didn't want to give it up. They wanted spike strips. We actually saw when we were first over this, they were trying to kind of get in there and get a pit maneuver on surface streets. And I think, Desmond, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yep.
Hey, Desmond.
I am. We are way up in the stratosphere at 8,000 feet here to be able to get some signal. Very complicated here in the Cajon Pass, but kind of amazing that we were able to bring you that pit maneuver.
I don't think it's complicated. I think it's just helicopter fly higher.
So, you know, I was talking earlier how we're dealing with one of the most aggressive agencies in Southern California, coupled with a very serious want with, you know, an armed and dangerous suspect. So regardless of the danger of, you know, putting themselves in harm's way, you saw sheriff's deputies. They had that opportunity there with the empty freeway. I think they were either holding traffic back there, maybe to try to do something like that, to do a pit on the freeway. There was also that construction back there that we saw that was slowing down some traffic. They have been talking about a spike strip at the truck scales, but the suspect, I think, drove right by those spikes. So that was ineffective. Deputies made the calculus. We're going to bring this to an end right now before they even have a chance to get back to their home territory up in the high desert, believed to be where the suspect lives. But it looks like a standoff situation now. We haven't seen, even though we're looking for, you know, really far, but looking to see if any, you know, hands out the window, anything, nothing like that. So deputies are out there with weapons drawn, probably lethal, less lethal. But we're not seeing any movement from the suspect at this point.
I mean, you can imagine this is a very delicate operation, Chauncey, with the fact that this person is armed and they don't want to approach that vehicle as aggressive as they may be as a law enforcement agency. They don't want to put their officers in danger in no way. So they're definitely taking their time and their precaution just to make sure that they're.
I mean, I'm not going to knock somebody for not knowing math. I don't know no fucking math.
Mike, you talked about this suspect allegedly having 2 guns in the car, and you also have an update for us?
Yeah, we just heard from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office while Desmond was talking there. We've learned that this happened in Hesperia. This is where the pursuit started after an alleged armed robbery at a residence. So some sort of home, unclear what exactly that robbery was about, what they may have taken or why it was a home and not a business. But that is what the San Bernardino Sheriff is telling us, is that preliminarily this started at 8:45 p.m. in the Hesperia area after an armed robbery at a residence. And we had heard on the radio
not high enough for this shit. Light one up, tip one back.
In the car. That sounds like
YouTube is done, Sacrificial Mills. Good evening.
They were able to meet with the victim. I'm sure they got a lot of information about that. But they had said that during that alleged crime is when he used those 2 handguns. And we now know from the Sheriff's Department out there that it was an armed robbery at a home.
And Mike, you were talking about how the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department
popping there for a little while.
This up.
Yeah, no, not at all. They CHP was listening to the radio, and they were giving information to CHP just to be advised because they were on the freeway. But they asked CHP if they could have a canine and if they could help them out with spike strips. But that was it. They did not want CHP to take over. They wanted to keep this chase, which is not uncommon for the San Bernardino sheriffs. We've seen them chase cars all the way into LA if they really want it. So they apparently really wanted it in this one.
And let's go back up to Desmond. It seems like we're here.
I got more subs out of that than I thought I would. I figured if I got 5 subs
in this car,
it was good. But
it was believed that only one person was in the car. That's what we heard them say pretty early in the pursuit. Now, I did just actually see the suspect get out momentarily. It looked like they opened the door, had their hands out, but then
I set realistic expectations.
So, still refusing to come out. I saw some people speculating that they think that they might be live streaming or something. It's something that's becoming way too common of an occurrence with these suspects in these pursuits, where they get on social media.
YouTube kind of lags a little bit, so that might be a.
So it looks like people are thinking that.
Well, if you set proper expectations,
but got out of the car.
Realistic. Wait a minute! Whoa, they are pulling away.
The suspect is moving again. Wow. The bumper's hanging off, I think, and. Boy, this is
yes.
They're going to come in and pit him again, I think. Yep, look at that. Another pit maneuver right there.
Turn him around.
So again, we're talking San Bernardino County.
This
guy's got to be careful. He's really putting his life in his own hands right now. Reversing on.
Oh wow, yes.
Going to drive into that deputy's vehicle right now. Pitted him twice, and the chase is.
I thought this was over.
Let's see if they're going to pit him a third time. Indeed, they are. They're trying to spin him around here. Wow, they are not playing. They want this over. Let's see if they're just going to box him in right now. It's like bumper cars on the
go.
Right now. I wish we weren't looking at this from 3 or 4 miles away. But, wow, that is really, really crazy stuff. A number of pit maneuvers, and now the pursuit is continuing.
Wow.
So that vehicle definitely was not disabled. And
I thought it'd come to an end.
They're coming up on him again, like they're going to ram him again. I think they just slammed right into him. This is insane. I don't think I've ever seen the authorities do this.
Now it looks like they're boxing him in.
Now they just bumped him from every angle, and now they're surrounded. And again, might be out and running. Yeah, I can see a little bit of movement right here in that red circle. I'm not sure if they got the suspect in custody there or what. Obviously, so difficult looking from the distance that we are, but just a really, really crazy turn of events, and I may have lost my comms with you guys. Let me just toss it back to you now on the ground.
Gotcha. And Mike, we were talking about being surprised that they did this pit maneuver right there in the middle of the freeway when we were talking about a suspect who they called armed and dangerous. And now we go from 1 pit maneuver to, was it 3 right there?
Yeah, 3, almost, well, kind of 4 before they all just started sliding into each other and doing all that kind of stuff.
I still got you guys.
Yeah, and you see the sheriff's deputies out and about. And I think Dez is still with us. But one of the things, because he's armed and dangerous, that's why they didn't fully box him in, right? Like in a typical pit maneuver, you'd spin him out and then you would have one car get in front of him. But they don't want to put themselves in that situation.
I mean, we were talking about typical. This is so atypical for what we might see, let's say, by the CHP in Los Angeles or in other jurisdictions. Obviously, we're talking about how Riverside County Sheriff's Department is known to be a little bit more of an aggressive agency. But oftentimes what we would have seen there is, oftentimes them waiting for, SWAT to show up, their version of SWAT to show up, had that person stayed there. But it looks like they want to handle this, Mike.
Yeah, they have no interest in letting it go. Now you've got the traffic. On the right side of your screen, you're looking at kind of all of those various pit maneuvers that were happening. And I'm just listening. They're asking for CHP to get there and try to help with some of this traffic and get that traffic stopped, because that's obviously a very dangerous situation too. And you've got all of these officers that are, trying to deal with the suspect, not really able to deal with the traffic here. So I think Dez is in and out with us, but it's just really wild, all these different types of
maneuvers. My goodness.
There's a deputy that is stuck in a vehicle, and it sounds like shots fired. Let me play this back one more time. Hang on one second. Yeah, so shots fired. Shots were fired at the end of this. I was worried that was going to happen. You got a guy that's using his car to ram into these deputies. San Bernardino Sheriff doesn't put up with that. And this is what we're now leading to. So
plus the guns.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're talking a major impact to traffic as well, right? If there are shots fired, even if they didn't hit the guy, they're going to shut down the freeway. This is going to be a force investigation division investigation.
Failure to yield.
This is going to be a long night out there now.
Yeah,
T-minus. Failure to yield was what stopped this.
In Southern California, what we often see is officers taking.
No, you don't want to be my tissue. Oh my God!
An armed and dangerous suspect, and we
I
knew
sneezed like 7
this
times.
person had at least 2 handguns from an armed robbery at a residence from Hesperia earlier this evening at about the 8:45 hour. And this is what we're seeing at the end of it. These the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department officers going right into it, boxing that person in after attempting, actually they did multiple pit maneuvers, and the person kept on going. You know, the idea of a pit maneuver is to hit that rear quarter panel and turn that car right around and then disable it. But that didn't seem to be working.
This big nose.
No, and I don't know if it's because the speeds weren't fast enough to trigger that with inside of the car. But now, you know, we're sitting here looking at the picture. I would assume that the deputy that is stuck is the one in the front because it looks like the driver's door is kind of blocked. And again, these shots were fired. We don't know if they hit the suspect, but shots have been fired.
I don't know if Desmond can hear us or Mike. Do we know if the suspect actually got out of the car?
I don't know if Prometheus is being...
There was some action going on in that little red circle you
facetious?
Do we know for sure if the suspect got out of the car?
Facetious.
And I'm not sure. I just saw that deputy running around over towards the center divider when I had it highlighted. They suddenly kind of started charging over that way. Made me think that maybe the suspect had got out and was running. But then they kind of reconvened, and then we just saw them make an approach on the car. I think it was right around that time when we were seeing all that commotion when we had heard that shots were fired. And that's, you know, what I was saying is that it's not an exaggeration that this suspect was literally jeopardizing their life, doing the kinds of things that they were doing on the freeway, especially when we're talking about the agency that we are. And when, you know, the suspect is believed to be armed and dangerous, San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies have absolutely no patience for any kind of
The chase began around 8:45 in the Hesperia area.
The second pit maneuver,
Hesperia area.
Smashing into the car to bring it to an end. So
it kept going all the way through parts of Ontario and Rancho Cucamonga, where it eventually ended along the 15 freeway at Lake Arrowhead.
It was already crazy enough with
a little after 10 p.m., the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department confirmed a lethal force encounter happened, so they killed the dude.
Think that the situation is under control one way or another.
Sheriff's officials later confirmed no deputies were injured.
Or anything.
The suspect was taken to an area hospital.
Encrypted frequencies.
Authorities
as well,
later confirmed that the suspect was shot by deputies and that the suspect suffered
wild ending. And
non-life-threatening injuries.
We've got lanes of the 15 blocked, and there's going to be a huge investigation about this one way or another. That's for sure.
Desmond,
a lethal force encounter happened, but apparently it wasn't lethal force.
We wouldn't see at freeway speeds a pit maneuver. I mean, on the freeway at all. No less going at freeway speeds.
They used what could have been lethal force, but the dude lived. What they're saying, I guess.
Yeah, that might be losing confidence.
Yeah,
I think Desmond might be having a little trouble hearing us. He's up in the Cajon Pass.
That is the update on what happened to the suspect last night.
It's not an easy place.
Shot, but apparently lived.
To your point, you're absolutely right. And I want to point out, if you can look, you know, the Desmond.
So that's your police chase. You got 2 chases. You got 2 chases for the price of 1. Hot damn. We're going to continue our stories to get you in spooky mood. This house in St. Louis had their Christmas. God damn it, it'll be Christmas before you know it. Had their Halloween decorations stolen twice in one day. She's got one of those cutesy mugs. It's like mama needs her wine or some shit. What Senate debate did I say we're doing tomorrow night? It's Delaware. Oh my God. Delaware. A dog has left the internet in stitches after he became enraged with an outdoor umbrella. Oh shit. Can't make it full screen. Chow Chow doesn't like the umbrella. Of course it has music. Couldn't just be Chow Chow. Does not like the umbrella. Is that a corgi? It knows what that umbrella did. Oh my god! It sits at the door, loathing that umbrella. Pomeranian. Okay, okay. Very pretty dog. They're very cute. Hates that umbrella. I didn't even see the umbrella, to be honest with you. They named it Chow Chow. So you're probably right there, MILF. There's the umbrella. Not even on inside of the fence. Isn't, but I mean, I know pets get upset over things. I've got cats that are very particular. They need things to be a certain way. If you are watching on Twitch, I'm going to send you over to Donald Trump. And I should have privileges to be able to comment. That's something you have to have months, so I'm going to be able to get some troll emotes in there. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun when we hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We'll see you.